Naturally, Nolans, you understood the assignment. I ain't gonna be here and lie, y'all tripping. Oh my goodness. Natural and Orleans saying she can hear my charger. Okay, y'all, let's get to it. Hi, Gil Charlie. Slinky, Slinky back. Lord. Y'all, please come in, hit the like button. You heard me, Natural and Orleans. They talk about my mic be miking. Child, you be hearing something every time. Please come in, hitting the like button. Okay, y'all ready to hop on? Oh, I thought I stopped you, Precious. You jamming though. That was a nice little set. Huh? That was a nice little set. So we gonna jump right on into it. I'ma see what done happened since set. Let's do this before we go into.
Are you looking to establish your business using an address other than your home? Well, at iPostal One.
Okay, hand-wringing and neck-wringing time is now officially over. Yes, the Supreme Court issued a decision that gutted aspects of the Voting Rights Act. No, it did not destroy your ability to vote. Mobilizing the vote is one of the most important civic duties that you can do. The 5 or 8 or 10 million people, whatever the number is, that sat out the last election have to be brought back into the party, into the electorate, into the democracy to vote. If that happens, only good things come from voting. Bad things, like the Trump administration, come from not voting. We cover that, how we move forward in the aftermath of the Voting Rights Act Supreme Court decision, and what that means for groups on the ground and boots on the ground to mobilize voting. It's enough of looking in the rearview mirror. You now have the cards you've been dealt, and you play your hand, and we know how to play it here on Legal AF and on the Legal AF podcast. And here's a clip of our podcast. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Voting Rights Act is a prime example. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but you know, we're going to be talking a lot about constitutional amendments that came out of the Civil War or Reconstruction era. Right now, we're talking about the Voting Rights Act. Later in the show today, in the next week or two, month or two, we're going to be talking about birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment. Today, we're going to talk about the 15th Amendment. And it took America 100 years to move from the 15th Amendment an Equal Protection Clause in 1865 to 1965, if it was a minute, for the Civil Rights Movement to come together, led by Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, putting pressure on Lyndon Johnson after the assassination of JFK, to pass the Civil Rights Act, which was anticipated 100 years earlier by the amendment, which said there'll be a congressional statute which will govern in this area. And then they finally did it. And all John Roberts has been doing since he's been the Chief Justice of the United States, and as soon as he got the numbers, was to chip away brick by brick at the Voting Rights Act. He chloroformed it. He got rid of Section 1. Section 2 is now beyond on life support, dealing with the rights of somebody to vote, and as it maps onto congressional maps. And it's what your point that you turned it over to me on is exactly right. That's not what the United States Supreme Court should be doing, legislating from the bench about these key issues. And then they have a very convenient little trick that, again, when we get to the segment, we'll talk about. And I knew we were in trouble, not this week. I knew we were in trouble in 2019 on cases that you and I reported on, when the Supreme Court said that party gerrymandering, drawing up of congressional districts, was not only was it okay, but you would not be able to come into court. They were locking and chaining the door of the courthouse to even have somebody come in and argue that a map drawn to basically draw away Democrats in the South, let's say, that is a violation of the Voting Rights Act or our Constitution. Oh, no. That's a political issue. That's not justiciable, meaning you can't even come into the courthouse. As soon as they said black and red and blue redistricting is okay, even if it impacts black and brown people, as soon as I heard that, I was like, uh-oh. And then they've combined it now with the Voting Rights Act that we will get to. And the thing that really galls me, so much galls me, but the thing that really galls me is Friday was May Day, which is celebrated in different ways around the country, around the world. It's either International Workers' Day. It's also known as the Rule of Law Day in America, starting with Eisenhower in 1958 and codified in 1961 by Congress. And it's a time for lawyers, like the ones on Legal AF, and the judiciary, and other people, other civic-minded people, to celebrate what makes America different from the tyrannical despots of the Cold War and in the current era. And this year, the American Bar Association, who I think we'll touch on later, declared the theme rule of law and the American dream. Donald Trump, who's busy hijacking these concepts of American values and then contorting them for his own purposes. That's all we've been watching, right? You go on the website now for the White House. First, you have to click through. I think I'm on some sort of I've landed on some sort of vendor on YouTube. I've got to click through the golden era email capture. Once I get through there, this is what he said about, or somebody wrote for him about Law Day. He said, under my leadership, we are in the new golden age of America. Who feels that way? One that remains firmly rooted in respect for our laws, reverence for our Constitution, and an unwavering commitment to the eternal truths that have guided our nation for 2.5 centuries. Is that what we've been watching over the last 16 months? A respect for our rule of laws, for our judiciary, for our United States Supreme Court. And it gets worse. The Justice Department, okay, led by Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, a partisan hack by the name of Harmeet Dillon, who runs Civil Rights Division. This is what they said about it. That the Department of Justice, we are deeply aware that the rule of law is not an abstract principle, but a living foundation upon which our society is built. Listen to this, Ben. This Law Day, we reflect on the dedicated public servants, legal professionals, judges, and law enforcement officers who work tirelessly to uphold these principles and are committed to strengthening these institutions.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to step away. So hit the lights up because
the
it's
openly
low right now.
defiant Department of Justice that
I got to go get my
on
food.
a regular hourly basis violates court orders, tells them in effect to go F themselves, attacks them in social media posts as Marxists, radicalists, criminals, along with their family, that sits idly by as the self-proclaimed chief legal officer of America, Donald Trump, the criminal in chief, as he goes after even his own appointed United States Supreme Court justices. That's right before he brings them into a state dinner so they can have a champagne-soaked dinner wearing white tie and white tails or whatever it is, just before dropping the Voting Rights Act decision. So this disconnect or this gaslighting of America, forget about the golden age of America, it's the gaslighting of America about Donald Trump and his Department of Justice. They crap on the rule of law and the institutions that you and I hold dear as professionals every hour of every day. And this is, I think, the moment, the reason that you and I founded Legal AF 6 years ago, having seen the tail end of the first Trump administration. And not that you and I were brilliant in our crystal ball about he could get elected again one day. I mean, we were both shocked when he still had political viability after Jan 6th. But this has always been a break the glass moment for and validates, not only us creating it, but the audience and the fellowship that we have been building on the other side of the microphone. And I really am I was so honored to take my oath again, which is up on Legal AF Substack on May 1. I've been a lawyer for 36 years, and just to renew my vows to my profession and to the public publicly was just so cathartic, especially now. But it just galls me. It's eye-popping to read on the White House Post, the DOJ Post, how they are great supporters of the rule of law. We'll talk later about what they're doing against the ABA and law schools as this podcast progresses.
Yeah, and corporate news will take that press release and they'll regurgitate it and say, here is what they said. How many times do we hear? Here's what Trump said. Here's what the DOJ said. And you have to look at it and say, are these things that they are saying, is that true or is it false? So do we republish it? Do we become the stenographer and the propagandist, or do we speak with truth, and do we speak with fearlessness and courageousness? And I think that's what's needed at this moment. You think about the other headline from this morning, Popak, that it's official, Spirit Airlines is now bankrupt. They had 17,000 employees. I think around 7,500 were remaining. And so all of those employees lost their jobs. And what does Donald Trump and Sean Duffy and right-wing media do immediately? they blame Biden and say it's Biden's fault because Biden brought antitrust proceedings against JetBlue and Spirit Airlines in 2024. Everything is a Biden thing, a Biden this, a Biden that. Donald Trump.
Wait, before you move on, finish that point, but I want to say something about Spirit. But
the point is that Donald Trump said he brought in $21 trillion or $18 trillion, depending on which metric of lies that you use, that we're living in a golden age, that everything's more affordable, including apparently jet fuel should be as well, that all of our businesses are thriving right now. And the buck stops with the person. What Biden did or didn't do in 2024, these things weren't happening under Biden. Look, if Spirit Airlines went bankrupt January of 2025, maybe February of 2025. All right, I mean, you're in charge now. But Donald Trump, the government's going to do this and I can do all of that. It's your fault. It's your fault. You're the one in charge. You can't keep on saying, the Democrats are responsible for the gas prices. The Democrats, this, that. And whenever you heard him speak, like he's speaking in Miami, in Palm Beach, and he was speaking at the Villages, his whole thing is that he blames Biden for all of the bad, and then he takes credit for all of the things that he thinks, was good. And it's just, that's lame. Like that should not be what our politics.
Let me do the real contrast here. Donald Trump, using his Commerce Secretary and Transportation Secretary, Howard Lutnick and Sean Duffy, could not figure out a way to bail out a problem of their own creation with the Iranian war, which doubled jet fuel prices. Spirit Air, which frankly has not turned a profit since 2019, has not under Donald Trump's original. If you want to blame somebody, they haven't turned a profit since Donald Trump's second to last year in office. But it wasn't helping them in bankruptcy to come out of bankruptcy and to still be a low-cost provider for American consumer and travel public, and put pressure on the JetBlues and the United Airlines and the American Airlines, who are all literally rubbing their hands in glee that their competitor went out of business. Here's the sharp split screen contrast. Trump, using his Commerce Secretary, couldn't figure out a way to bail out 17,000 jobs and keep Spirit Air alive. Go back to Obama. He saved an auto industry and a banking industry, working closely with Tim Geithner, his Treasury Secretary, who previous to that had been a chief economist and worked in the Fed, so knew what he was doing. And working together, Geithner and Obama saved two major industries, and we got all our money paid back from those bailouts. Fast forward, he puts Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, with the Treasury Secretary nowhere to be found. Scott Bessent, nowhere, not that he's qualified either, but nowhere to be found. He puts Lutnick, the deal maker, back in. The guy that cut the deal with U.S. Steel and Intel and all the other investments with our money that the Trump administration has made, all of these sketchy investments. But when it comes to saving a major segment of an industry upon which our economy relies, we're coming into the summer travel season, the billions of dollars that would have been a part of the GDP of our country, and business travel, which is, back, you have to now attend meetings. You can't just Zoom them in anymore. And they just blithely, we tried. And we're the deal maker. They caught Donald Trump a day or so ago. If the deal's not right, I'm not going to go for it. That's 17,000 jobs. Even Lutnick reportedly told them, this is political viability for you. You can brag about 17,000 jobs in the Midwest or wherever it is if during the midterms. Nope. Folded. And that's it. That's another victim of Donald Trump's Iranian war, because jet fuel prices have gone up double. And anyway, I just wanted to contrast. If you want to go back and say whose stewardship should be admired and who should be despised, look what Obama did versus what Donald Trump just did at a similar moment.
And that's why often what we talk about in the courtroom and outside the courtroom, though, is steady leadership, steady hand, qualifications.
Welcome back. Listen, we don't blow smoke or sunshine on this podcast or on this channel or on this network. I think that's why you keep coming back for more. You talk about voting. Let's do early voting and hit the subscribe button. Help us to continue to grow. Subscribe button, wherever it is. Help us to continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. It's a hour-long podcast. It's now 3 times a week on
How much do you spend on groceries per week?
Like $150, $200, 200, I think.
Like 350?
350. You enjoy cooking?
No, but I do it.
And if I told you that you can have award-winning chefs prepare your meals every single week and have everything delivered to your doorstep for much less than what you're spending on groceries right now, what would you say?
No, I wouldn't believe you.
Cook Unity lets you enjoy meals from award-winning chefs. No cooking, no cleanup, just real chef-made food delivered to you every week.
on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network, and a live edition on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Legal AF YouTube channel. So until my next report, this is Michael Poe. Go back. I'm Michael
Sorry, I
Poe.
had to go get something to eat.
We begin with a president confronted sometimes to his actual face about if he has now become preoccupied with his vanity projects, his sort of late-stage anti-democracy, pseudo-autocratic style, and self-glorification efforts when we are quite clearly in an economic gas crisis of his making and an ongoing war, even though many hope that the ceasefire holds. Donald Trump now demanding the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool be painted a color of his choosing. Now, the point
White and
here is
gold.
not which color it should be. He says blue is better than what it was. The point is whether this type of thing
It's important right now.
anywhere near the literal top 20 or 30 things that presidents should be worried about given the problems facing our country.
Oh my God.
The ballroom cost is now $1 billion. Veterans groups suing over this proposal to focus on building a massive arch. And while other presidents, to be fair, have been involved in certain what we might call symbolic building projects and efforts around Washington, D.C., and we do have this anniversary, a lot of this just feels completely off base.
We wasn't at war like this.
About the war. We just saw the ceasefire tested with that missile firefight last night. Trump visiting the reflecting pool because of all the things he could do on a work day, and mind you, he's not working full days that we can measure, but on the days where he is in Washington actually presidenting, this is what he's spending his time on.
Hi. Meet Woodger.
It makes you want to move.
Our products let you
You do make you want to move.
The backdrop of the war in Iran. Why focus on all these projects right now?
You know why? Because I want to keep our country beautiful and safe. Beautiful also.
You the dirtiest
This
thing
was
in the
a
country.
disgusting place. It's such a stupid question you ask. We're fixing up the reflecting pond to the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and you say, why are you fixing it up?
This is not the sound of a great communicator summoning public works projects or finding a way to argue for unity or, again, perhaps mentioning the anniversary. No, this is someone who seems to have lost the plot, according to many critics. It's what they call in our business a split screen moment. You saw we split one way to look at it, but the public doesn't need a reminder of a headline about how expensive gas is. That's what most people are struggling with every day. We reported on people going into credit card debt to pay for what are the Trump tax gas prices. He also has this idea to take that building that you've seen if you ever watch inauguration and other events where you go on a wider shot, broader than the White House. Just sort of to the left of the main front of the White House is the building you see here. If you've ever held meetings or done stuff in D.C., it's a known building. It's called the Eisenhower Executive Building, and it's part of the White House complex in the sense that way more people end up holding meetings and working there than in the smaller White House. So the president, having thought about this now, I guess, over the course of 2 terms, wants to paint it white so that it visually matches the White House more. To be clear, it was deliberately painted this color because the White House is supposed to stand out and not dilute sort of that visual cue. But again, I don't want to be doing interior decorating and external aesthetics in the news. We have bigger fish to fry, but this is what the president is fixated on, leading to headlines that are just kind of straightforward. Trump bored with the war he started. That cites reporting from some in his inner circle. The war, though, boring or not to the president, grinds on. As mentioned, the U.S. had to fire on those Iranian-flagged oil tankers, raising questions about how durable this sort of stalemate ceasefire position is, because every day that things are going down is a risk to holding it. The Post reports confidential CIA analysis has found Iran can outlast Trump's blockade for 3 to 4 months before they face what to them would be severe economic hardship. And I don't minimize what Americans are facing on gas prices, but if you look at the history of the Middle East, we have faced down countries and their, of course, dictatorial leaders before who are willing to subject their people to a lot of hardship, which means the equities may not pay off for Trump's bad bet. The finding, the Post notes, raises questions about Trump's optimism on ending the war. We also have U.S. adversaries who now view America as kind of a giant. We can still bomb these countries in a way most others cannot. That's true. That's the giant part. But the Times says other superpowers like China do see us now under Trump as a giant with a limp. And their analysts believe the war has done more than deplete U.S. munitions stockpiles. That's sort of the hard power piece. They say something that goes to what, these days the kids call aura. Times reports that, according to China, Trump has managed to shatter America's aura of dominance. In the Washington Post, one conservative writing that Trump now risks snatching defeat from the jaws of victory in Iran, while another longtime conservative who also has a pretty MAGA audience these days online, Megyn Kelly, says this.
I have no idea whether there's a 14-point deal or not. None whatsoever. I don't trust a word President Trump says about this anymore. He's told us 31 times that the Iran war is over. Okay, only to then tweet about how we're going to bomb them into oblivion.
If this is what his media friends sound like, imagine what independent and objective analysts, military experts, veterans, communities see and hear when he lies this much about the war and its end and the plans. And then you can just go out again to the general public where some people really thought and hoped that Trump would do what he said, that he talked a lot about bringing prices down, that he was talking about Biden gas prices and inflation, and so he'd come in and do something about it. The only thing he's done is made it worse. Gas prices over $4.50, that's up $1.40 from just last year. The grinding war, the rising prices, the concerns about, again, real world problems. If you watch this program, I try to keep it very clear. I don't need to make it too fancy. Some things are very simple. Reality is the biggest problem in politics. And when you have economic realities or other big realities, we all remember the pandemic, which helped sink Trump in his first term and his failure to lead the government in a clear way to protect the American people. Reality is the hardest thing to spin in politics. Very different than debating about symbolism or even sports and bathrooms and some of the tertiary issues we've seen campaigned on. I mention that because state officials say in New Jersey, residents may have been exposed and infected with this deadly hantavirus. There was an outbreak on a cruise ship from the Netherlands, and 3 passengers are dead there. American officials are monitoring people in 6 states. Now, we're not here to exaggerate anything. We all lived through a pandemic, and this could give you a kind of PTSD if you remember the cruise ship stories early then. The top international group on this, the World Health Organization, still says that they view the risk to the wider public as low. Not medium, not high, low. The Times, though, also reports that if you're looking to that group to help do international collaboration to avoid that risk getting any higher, remember, Trump was the rare president who withdrew the United States from that group, so we don't even now get updated, regularized information about these emerging health threats from them, although we can read about it, of course, in public accounts. The administration also closed those research centers focused on preventing pandemics that study pathogens like this hantavirus. And the Trump administration's sluggish response and lack of communication suggests the U.S., if the risk got higher, would be ill-prepared for a larger health crisis. Now, you're watching the news tonight. It's Friday. Maybe you were hoping for news that doesn't give you deja vu of COVID. We are not telling you, based on the information we have tonight, that this is another COVID. And for folks who were hoping for the worst or think this could bedevil Donald Trump because he did fail by many accounts the last pandemic, that's not my point. We all hope for the best. But Donald Trump has, in policy, set the U.S. back to deal with what is even still considered a low risk but serious thing to monitor. Here he is.
It's very much, we hope, under control. It was the chip. It should be fine. We hope. I hope not. I hope not. We'll do the best we can.
Hope is not enough when you're talking about a gas crunch and a war you started. Hope is not enough to fix a tenuous ceasefire or reopen a strait that has been open until Trump started a war. As for how the government runs, you could add a hantavirus briefing to one of the many things Donald Trump could have done late this week other than attend to his vanity construction projects.
I'm the founder of Mudwater, and a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between Mudwater and all these mushroom coffees out there? So here's the short version. Mudwater isn't mushroom coffee. There's no coffee at all in our product. Most mushroom coffees are kind of exactly what they sound like. Powdered coffee, typically in small doses to bring down the caffeine.
Who is Carrie? Oh, Jim Carrey. Is his name Jim? Epstein. Boom.
We're going to start with a really interesting interview and topic for you guys. Tara Palmieri is going to join us. She's got a great Substack where the Red Letter, where she has written a lot about Epstein and covered it from day one. And now she's got a breaking news about John Kerry, the former Democratic presidential candidate and Secretary of State, and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, let alone all the other Democrats, let alone foreign diplomats, a lot of names you might not have heard before. So, Tara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Cenk. It's always a pleasure.
No problem. So, tell us about John Kerry and Jeffrey Epstein's connections.
Well, it's something that I learned about actually in 2019 through Virginia Giuffre. She is one of the most prominent survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. As you may know, she has accused Prince Andrew of sexual abuse, Senator George Mitchell, Governor Bill Richardson, Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel.
He was horrible.
The list is shocking, frankly. And she told me that while she was basically enslaved by Jeffrey Epstein, she was a minor and she was in his sex trafficking operation, that she met John Kerry. And I found that to be very shocking at the time, because it would have been 2 years before he ran for president in 2004. And it was just, from what she had told me, you could not be around Jeffrey Epstein and not know what he was up to. I mean, she said even a pizza delivery guy, if he went into the house, would see pictures of naked girls, young girls all over the place, unmarried man. There was obviously something wrong in this scenario. So, I kept digging into it and trying to figure out what is this Kerry connection, because obviously we've seen pictures with Bill Clinton, we know about the Trump connections, but, John Kerry had a really, really critical role in our national security apparatuses as Secretary of State. And he did run for president, and he was a part of the National Security Council under Biden. So he's had a lot of influence in our government over 3 decades. And what I've found was Epstein, over the years, really tried to groom leaders at the top of our State Department and national security apparatuses. And I think we know what he was trying to do in terms of influence, right? I do want to get back to Kerry and his place in Epstein's world. In 2019, Kerry's spokesperson said that he did not know Jeffrey Epstein personally. Now we have a picture that shows Kerry inside the home of Jeffrey Epstein with his 2 housekeepers. We also have sworn testimony from Jeffrey Epstein's former chef, who said that when he cooked for Epstein on the plane, the Lolita Express, he recalled seeing John Kerry. This was taken in 2006 picture that shows Kerry inside the home of Jeffrey Epstein with his 2 housekeepers. We also have sworn testimony from Jeffrey Epstein's former chef, who said that when he cooked for Epstein on the plane, the Lolita Express, he recalled seeing John Kerry. This was taken in 2006. So this wasn't like taken 20 years later and, oh, maybe fuzzy. This is a sworn testimony 302. We have survivors saying that Epstein would talk about how he was friends with Kerry. There's obviously, some donations, nothing major. So you have to come to wonder, like, what was Kerry getting from this, right? But then when you keep digging into the files, you see that Epstein was really tracking Kerry closely when he was Secretary of State in the Iran deal. And when he was Secretary of State, a number of people asked for access to Kerry through Epstein, and Kerry offered access, and Epstein offered access to Kerry to people as like Steve Bannon, as late as 2018 when he was Trump's advisor, to that disgraced Norwegian diplomat, Terry Rod Larson.
Let's remember,
sadly, his son
Bannon
killed himself yesterday as he's in the middle of an
Bannon said
investigation
that if
in
they
Norway
don't win
for corruption ties.
midterm, they all going to jail, including himself. Remember that. We would want to know why so much intensity. Why is Auntie Fee saying our vote do count? Because Bannon said we all going to jail, prison.
Pretext of the Oslo Accords, which we can get into if you'd like to as well. And that disgraced Emirati shipping tycoon, the Sultan Ahmed bin Suleiman, he asked to see Kerry through Epstein. And there is just this web where you see Epstein's world colliding with Kerry, and you also see him actively trying to court Bill Burns. And Bill Burns was Kerry's deputy secretary of state. And as you know, State Department and CIA are very closely intertwined. A lot of diplomats, they run sources and assets for the CIA out of the embassies. And Bill Burns went on to be the CIA director under Joe Biden. He had 3 decades of service, and Epstein is connecting him to Peter Thiel. Epstein is talking about having a dinner at his house with Bill Burns, Ehud Barak, this Norwegian diplomat, Terry Rod Larson, who was getting him visas for Russian girls and borrowing money for him. And yeah, it's just, I mean, there are other, and there are other people at the table. So as you can see, he was cultivating all of these relationships with the top of our national security apparatus, and he took this long bet on Kerry. He really had these like wild schemes in which Kerry would come back into national prominence as late as 2016. That like Hillary would get indicted, and that Kerry would drop into the race late because he had money and had won more states than Biden.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that too, because that's such a interesting fact that's uncovered here. Okay, so I care most about why Epstein is targeting our leaders. I think the answer is super obvious, unless you work in mainstream media and you've never heard of journalism. But we'll come back to that in a second, and we'll come back to the powerful people in a second. But first on John Kerry, just to be clear, there's nothing connecting him to the sex yet, but he is connected to being at Epstein's house, knowing Epstein in ways that we did not know before. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we certainly did not have that sworn testimony before the files came out. All we had was the word of John Kerry, and we didn't have these emails where Epstein
The
was offering
lies.
access to John Kerry. And in the text messages with Steve Bannon, he's like, "Oh, Kerry's going to be in town next weekend. Do you want to meet him?" Then he says, "Oh, he won't be in town, but I can introduce you to Bill Burns instead." And now I asked Kerry's team about it, and they say he wasn't in Washington at all in 2018. Like, it's just the most absurd statement to make.
Yeah, that'd be so weird if people in power were lying and lying about their connections to Epstein. I mean, it's not like Howard Lutnick or anyone else would do that.
Yeah, suddenly he was on the island too. And you know what's the crazy thing is like Bill Burns was invited to the island too, he and his wife, and he said he wished he could go, but then he had to change plans to actually work at the State Department. And this is after, when Epstein was a sex offender.
So
he's asking.
They didn't care because they was one too.
So I have a different theory on what might have motivated John Kerry. So obviously, if he was involved in the sex, then he owes Epstein, and so Epstein can set up these connections and meetings with John Kerry and his deputy if Kerry owes Epstein, right? But that's not the only potential theory, and we don't know that yet. We don't have the information connecting him to the sex yet. But part of that theory goes to the overall picture. So let me go back to the powerful men. So there's two things that are amazing about it. These are some of the top people in American politics. George Mitchell was a huge figure in the Senate and in administrations afterwards in the Democratic Party. Bill Richardson was constantly talked about running for president. And by the way, at the time, I used to hear all the time, the only problem with Bill Richardson is his sex life. Like everyone knew, but nobody was allowed to report on it, right? And so that's already super strange. And then,
along with a number of other people that spent time around Jeffrey Epstein that were politicians.
Yeah.
They had the same reputations.
Yeah, it's funny how the ones that hung out with Epstein, everyone halfway kind of knew that they had sexual issues. But the American people are not allowed to know it. Only the people in power know it and use it for their own purposes. I mean, Ehud Barak's former prime minister of Israel, his connections to Epstein are probably greater than any other individual through that you see in the Epstein files. And our entire national press has ignored it. Like, oh, no big deal. Yeah, of course. The former prime minister of Israel being involved in this massive sex scandal where...
Staying in his apartments on the Upper East Side with his wife. I mean...
No big deal. Yeah, not no big deal. That's a huge deal for any world leader, which then brings me back to why they're doing this. So, Tara, what jumps out here is for any rational, normal person with common sense. You don't need to be a reporter at all. You don't need to be Sherlock Holmes. You think this guy Epstein is clearly trying to accumulate power. He's trying to get close to the most powerful people on earth. And I don't think it's a hobby. I don't think he's going to then use it to impress people on the bocce court or pickleball court or whatever.
I know, and I always think it's funny that people pass it off that way. Oh, he just liked to play up his contacts. It's like, no. This wasn't just like sport for him. He liked to move around powerful people like chess pieces because it served him.
Yeah. So the obvious conclusion appears to be, and certainly obvious enough that there should be a massive line of questioning in this direction, was he serving as state actor? Here's a guy who was involved in the Iran-Contra affair. There were no civilians involved in the Iran-Contra affair, leading you to believe that he's intelligence. Here's his deep relationship with a guy who wound up being the head of the CIA, Bill Burns. Why do American and Norwegian and UAE and all of these other countries have these deep ties to this, what's supposed to be a random private citizen in South Florida? I mean, so I guess that question, so that part is so obvious that it begs the question of why doesn't national media care about one of the most, I'm not saying they don't care about the story at all. I'm saying they don't seem to show any interest in the most interesting part of the story, which is why is he accumulating this power? And how does he know every single leader in America and in the world, seemingly?
I want to hit just 3 points there, because first, I do want to say that in 2008, Epstein's lawyers put in a Freedom of Information request, to the CIA and to the National Security Agency, the NSA, asking for proof of affiliation to prove that Epstein was affiliated with those two agencies. Just to be clear.
Wait, say that again. What does that mean, Tara?
They wanted to have some sort of proof that Epstein was affiliated with the CIA and the NSA. They wanted that proof?
Who wanted that proof?
Epstein's lawyers. They wanted that proof.
That's so interesting because, Dershowitz says...
Who was in the Epstein file? Dershowitz?
He was part of intelligence, like Mossad. That would have been easy to get him off. First of all, is that right? Like, can Mossad agents come and rape our girls here, and then it's easy to get them off if Dershowitz is right? But
that's what's happening.
Well, it turns out what you're saying, and honestly, I didn't know that part, is that his lawyers did try to use that he was involved maybe with the CIA to get him off.
Exactly. I don't believe he only worked for one government. Like, I believe he was like almost a spy for hire, and he started helping the U.S. government. I think he's a Whitey Bulger type. I think, he was a part of one of the largest Ponzi schemes in our country, in history. It was the $300 million financial tower scheme. It happened in the early 90s with Stephen Hoffenberg. His partner, Stephen Hoffenberg, went to jail for the rest of his life. Jeffrey Epstein did not, because he turned on him and worked with the feds. He worked with the feds again on Bear Stearns. I think Jeffrey Epstein traded on secrets. And how do you get secrets? Compromise.
Yeah, so, okay, our national media...
And Trump thought he was going to turn on him.
Like, that's not interesting?
So he turned on him.
No. I do want to go into that. I agree, and I agree that they have missed the story in so many ways. It's like they're even this, like, if you actually talk to the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and you ask them about the men that were around them, they would understand the story. If you believed them, you would know. I mean, Virginia was the one who told me about this. She was the one who literally tipped me off to look into this close relationship. And they don't.
Double tap the face of your phone or hit those three dots at the top right corner. I need the lights to go up. It's 160 people in here. Hit the like button. Hit those three dots. It don't cost you a thing. You won't be charged. Oh, absolutely. CIA. Military. And some of these fake crises. You an accountant for the troll beef, Mo3 troll beef sector only. Are you what that mean? What you trying to say on the cruise? Wise learned leader? What you trying to say about being over here in an TV sector? So what you trying to say? I'm the accountant. Okay. So I want us to be clear. Before I make my next move, what are you trying to say on the cool? What do you mean about the accountant for the troll beef Mo 3 sector though? What that mean? Are you trying to say on the cool that you won't support Auntie Fee over here? I just want to have a clear understanding. I want to get a feel of who you really are. While you over here sipping on my tea. I'm trying to get an understanding. Say understanding, rule the nation or something like that. What you yeah, that's okay. You moving too slow. Come back another day. No, that's all right. Bye. Bye.
They don't state the affiliations. They don't state
yeah.
Although I will give them credit for calling a suicide note
You peep that? By troll, absolutely. By. Yeah. Yeah. Troll on. Over there. Troll on over there. Get your trolling ass over there. Okay, as we were.
Purported suicide note. That's the New York Times. Because obviously we can't
Trump's
trust
seen
anything
doo-doo
coming out of the
face.
Justice
What that
Department
mean,
when they're
Jazz?
holding on to 2.5 million files for either to
You said, I
protect
need this
survivors,
tea.
which
Why
I
they
don't
playing?
believe because they didn't redact their names. They redacted the name of a sultan that, you know, Epstein was going to hook up with Carrie, who loved torture videos. But they can't, you know, they can't redact a survivor's
PPP
name.
loan.
They're national security documents. And so why are 2.5 million files related to national security and Jeffrey Epstein? So that's a whole other story. But the media, I mean, what's kind of upsetting about this story is I've always just seen it as a political cudgel. People use it as a weapon, however it suits them. The liberal media did not think it was useful back in 2019 when the story broke. You guys were covering it. I remember that because you had me on your show when I did the Broken Jeffrey Epstein podcast, and I traveled around the country trying to find witnesses to corroborate Virginia's abuse. But they just didn't really care, right? It didn't have a purpose for them. And so they were only interested as much as there was a financial aspect to it, but they wouldn't get into the national security concerns, which were obviously glaring, considering the people he was spending time with, right? And that was before we even saw the full scope of the files and who he was supporting and the people he was close to and the actions that were so obvious, like old school honeypot, compromise, KGB style, frankly, information gathering. You see in the files that his pilot tells him, I got these cameras. They're so small. I can put them in the Kleenex boxes so no one can see them. And we know that they're sitting on 40 gigabytes of files.
Yeah.
What could 40 gigabytes be other than video, right?
So,
and we've only seen 300 megabytes. We've seen 1% of the Epstein files.
Yeah,
1%.
No, you can't say, there's no question. You can't say that we can't show you the information because it's a national security issue and then tell us it's not a national security issue. You can't have it both ways. Obviously, he was involved in national security. Obviously, he was intelligence. Anyone saying otherwise is a giant liar. And why they're lying is super interesting. But look, I'll add one thing to this. I know we're running short on time. With the information I know, you mentioned 2016 and John Kerry. I talked to people back then, super high in the Democratic Party, who told me that if Hillary Clinton ran into trouble, that one of the people they were considering replacing her with was John Kerry. So that's why Epstein and whoever he works for was deeply interested in John Kerry. Here's a guy who ran for president earlier. Okay, if he's the president of the United States, then whoever Epstein's working for can easily control the president of the United States if he's connected, right? If he runs again in 2016, then you have the president of the United States in your back pocket. Now, here's why, yeah, there's no question there's crossover from the CIA, because you can tell in the Iran-Contra affair, right? So that he's working with the CIA there. But is he exclusively working for the CIA?
No.
The CIA doesn't need to control the U.S. president. The U.S. president is already in
He's
charge.
working for Israel,
that's
too.
our government, right? So that does. So it has to be a foreign government trying to control. And so we're not going to avoid the 800-pound gorilla in the room. That's Israel. Obviously, this is Israel. Every single business deal he did was in favor of Israel. There's no question about that. That's all over the emails.
He also gave to Israeli philanthropy. He was close with Les Wexner. I mean, that was his main funder. There is so many. Ehud Barak was a personal friend. Robert Maxwell, who was known to be a Mossad agent, gave him recommended him to Hank Greenberg to work for them. It goes very far back. The problem is we don't have the emails.
I don't know about him being on Air Force One.
Have the
because right when he got elected, didn't he get
they kind of stopped before email. We don't know him in the 1991 Oslo reports. Like, what was he doing?
Yeah.
When Terry Reed Larson was building this, was he right next to him, breathing down his throat? Because they were best friends, literally best friends.
So
He left
Tara, that's the last.
$10 million in will.
Yeah, so Epstein left 10 million for Larson in his will, the Norwegian diplomat that was running the Oslo Accords. And so, Tara, that's my last question. So, look, if you're Israel, the Oslo Accords were everything. So if you could frame it as those no good, dirty Palestinians turned down a perfectly wonderful offer from the Israelis when you actually handed them a terrible offer that you knew they couldn't take. And then you have everyone involved. Bill Clinton connected to Epstein. John Kerry connected to Epstein. Terry Rod Larson connected to Epstein. And they all say on Israel's behalf, Israel is right and the Palestinians are wrong. That allows them to continue the occupation. And so now we're to believe that Epstein's hundreds of connections to Israel and his supernova focus on the Oslo Accords are a coincidence. Is that what we're supposed to believe?
I mean, Rod Larson was the one that we know for certain has a focus on was the architect of the Oslo Accords, but he was trading emails with Epstein almost every single day while Kerry was in Iran. They were trading thoughts and news clippings on everything he was doing there. So they were both watching it super closely. That is what I can speak to based on the files. I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein was present around the time of the Oslo Accords. I wish I did. I just don't have the sourcing to tell you.
Yeah. But Tara, he doesn't have to be present. He just has to tell his Rod Larson, who's randomly, apparently his best friend is the guy who ran the Oslo Accords, that he's such a good friend that he left him $10 million as a thank you gift. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's actually being investigated, unlike the leaders of our country. They're not being investigated.
Of course, because credit to Norway, that means they're not completely controlled by Israel. But our government is, in my opinion, obviously, completely controlled by Israel. That's why we're not allowed to investigate our leaders and their connection to the biggest pedophile ring in American history. We're not allowed to investigate it, and we're not allowed to know it, because God forbid we find out that it might be connected to our special ally that has funneled all of our money and all of our troops to that one country the size of Papua New Guinea. But the fact that they're massively connected through a potential sex scandal to all of our leaders is not relevant, our media says, and our politicians say. You got to read Tara Palmieri's Substack. It's called The Red Letter. Unlike national media, she was all over mainstream media before. I mean, huge history and experience there, but now doing wonderful independent reporting there. Thank you for joining us, Tara. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, guys. So, by the way, last thing on this. What could John Kerry's motivation be if he wasn't involved in any of these sexual,
mayhem,
goings-ons, to say the least? Well, you also want to be close to Epstein. If Epstein is the source of power, why would he be the source of power? If he's representing Israel, there's nothing more powerful in America than that.
Good
that
old nasty boys.
Like Kerry, even if they weren't doing the sex,
I just don't understand how the U.S. can help
will you make me
everyone
president?
in the world,
will you
but
help
can't
me
help the
maneuver in
people.
2004 and 2016?
Because they
look at that, I'm
intentionally-
always at the top of the list. And when Israel
they intentionally lined it up with Jewish people. They intentionally did that so that they could overtake, steal, get away with it, steal, kill, and destroy, and get away with it. So they intentionally lined it up. That's why they are losing power, losing control, and they're saying it's the black folk fault. They done got the immigrants so far out in their mind, and I told y'all who gonna be next. Well, they got them Hispanics out, illegal immigrants out in time. I mean, if it was an issue, why he didn't get him out his first term? I mean, people are overlooking that. Before there was Biden, there was Trump. Trump 1.0. Did he talked about a wall, but did he go ham like he went ham this time? No, he didn't go ham because that plan had not been infiltrated, and they thought it was going to go a particular way. Even with the insurrection, was it probably going to go down the second go round? Yeah, that's why he had his good old boys already lined up. You go to jail, I get you out. You go to prison, I pardon you. It's going to be that way this time if they don't make some significant changes. Trying to be nice and cool and respectful ain't always it. So that was his plan. So now it's the black people. They arrogant, they cocky, you know. They a problem. They know the truth now. A lot of them know the truth now. Yeah, we done play with their food. These motherfuckers are strong as hell. They fat as shit. Every plan we had to take them down and, you know, get our money out of them, you know. So now it's leaking all the natural herbs and supplement. Oh my God. Now they know that 99.9% of these ailments and diseases, all it is worms. And if they figure out that all they have to do is take natural herbs, get on that garlic, what's the pumpkin seeds and all of oregano and all these different natural herbs, our cover is absolutely blown. Now all of a sudden they're giving us, you know, doctors, the former doctors are giving us what we need to, if you took the cocktail, to get that spike protein out of your body. Because whatever they got going on right now, or they trying to act like it's going on right now, it's probably going to affect that cocktail. That cocktail is probably going to be a link to it. And we going to find out later. But ain't nobody going to be able to sue. Because everybody going to be dead and gone. It always starts on the ship. And then I'm hearing China saying, no U.S. citizen can enter into China because of this virus. I remember a long time ago thinking that China brought that over here. He went over there, and I said they sent that virus back with him. All to find out that it came from Epstein and Gates. Now, why ain't no charges been brought up on Gates? Because I got him. I got a clipping of it. Him saying, yeah, he did it, and yeah, he gonna do it again or something. He said, hold on. Why ain't no charges been brought up on him? But it's certain words we just can't say, or they gonna take take our part-time income, some people's full-time income. Hold on. Let me see what it was that Gates. So why is he still able to walk around? Africa say, get up out of here with all that foolishness. That's why them scientists are missing. Okay. Dang it. Gates. Yeah. He apologized. He had a dinner at the Trump's house, apologizing.
Today I had steak.
Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I could profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines and shit. Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I can profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines and shit. Also, sorry
Yeah,
for
that's
sterilizing
real. About
so
the
many of
scientists,
you. There's just too many of us, and
about the missing scientists, either they unalive themselves or they, yeah, and the monkeys also on TV last year. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, you know, and when I saw Melania, and I don't want to put it on diaper Donnie, but to see her smirk, to see her giggle on the cool.
well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I can profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines and shit. Also, sorry for sterilizing so many of you. There's just too many of us, and some of you are not nice. That's why I'm trying to block out the sun. Anyway, I just came here.
I thought it was up to almost 20.
Epstein shit. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single fucking
I don't
version of
think this
Windows
is
that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also,
Look
sorry
at-
for
look at
creating
Trump over
viruses just so I can profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses.
What do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for breakfast today?
Today I had steak. And I had yogurt. I eat grass-fed milk on top or cream on top yogurt, and that I have a very restricted diet that I've been on for about 250 days.
I wonder,
But
does
it's a
he
carnivore
eat,
diet with ferments? So it's carnivore, and then the only other thing I eat is ferment.
Is it a strict carnivore diet?
It's very strict.
No carbs?
No carbs. My heart was covered with visceral fat.
Wow.
My liver was covered with visceral fat. And he said, if you don't already have atrial fibrillations, you're going to have them. And I had atrial fibrillations every day for 4 months. And he told me a lot of other bad stuff that was going to happen to me. So he said, I can get rid of it all within 90 days. And he said, you do this diet. So I did the diet for 30 days, and I did another full body MRI, and my visceral fat had gone down by 40%.
What do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for
He
breakfast?
don't eat nothing Gates.
Today I had steak, and I had
hold on.
As Jews never buy groceries from large corporate supermarkets, and when you find out why, you will stop too. Commercial butter is riddled with synthetic additives that disrupt your hormones. Supermarket milk comes from cows pumped with antibiotics. It passes directly into every glass your children drink. You're not nourishing your body. You are slowly poisoning it with products engineered for profit, not health. Kosher law forbids every single
Kosher
one
law.
of these shortcuts.
That's what I've been
Health
trying to
standard of
stick to.
cleanliness
Kosher
has
law.
existed 3,000 years and available to everyone, not just Jews. My grandfather told me, what you consume daily either builds your energy or drains it. Your body operates at the frequency of what you feel. I broke down my full kosher-inspired health stack inside my...
Is Donald Trump just a clone now?
And I don't even be...
Kind of. The man we see on stage or in speeches, is this the real Trump?
No.
It's a clone we see.
Do y'all be believing in this stuff?
Is Donald Trump just a clone now? Kind of. The man we see on stage or in speeches, is this the real Trump?
It depends on what he say stupid.
It's a clone we see.
It's more than one clone. They say it's about 7 of them. Allegedly.
Is it true Trump is under a protection program? Yes. Are the assassination attempts of Donald Trump staged? No.
Yeah, see, now that, you lose me. Yeah, you lost me right there.
The plane that Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses, its tail number is... So if you've had the vaccine, particularly if it's Pfizer or Moderna, you have this in you. If you had the PCR testing and you had that hydrogel that contained the graphene oxide, you have this in you. Homoborgenesis is a new term.
Maybe.
For the human
They all
species.
got clones.
There's another term they use, a Homoborg erectus. So are you saying Alex Jones was right? He was spot on. Alex is spot on. Alex is being honest, and that's what we need. We need more warriors. We need more heroes in society. So if you've had the vaccine, particularly if it's Pfizer or Moderna, you have this in you. If you had the PCR testing, the plane that
detox. All I'm gonna say is detox. I'm gonna say detox. Ooh. If you don't ever hear me say nothing. China says no U.S. citizens. None. Cut off. We cut off. Hold on. Before I get back over here. Hold on. Y'all know once I come over here. Ooh, y'all. Oh, I saw this. I said, now y'all, who remembers Smash the Topic? Shout out to Smash the Topic. Who remembers when I brought up that Ghislaine Maxwell had a partnership with Disney? And Ellen, you know, they had that white and blue, that blue and white stripe stuff. Y'all remember that? Anybody remember that? Disney Magic crew members among 28 arrested in federal child exploitation investigation. She was a talent scout at Disney. She worked for Disney. And something I read, I think, where they had an excursion on the Epstein Island from Disney. We gotta stay woke. We gotta stay woke. Y'all seeing it with your own eyes. Come on up here, eyes. With the thick eyebrows. Ha! Yes, indeed, honey. Yes, indeed. The eyes and the eyebrows. Absolutely. Come on, that's what you're standing over here talking. Come on.
I want everyone to just stop and rewind the tape when you said that. Why do you think Epstein, of all issues, is the one that Donald Trump was willing to destroy his presidency over? He's endorsed this campaign against you and your family, but really just sort of hurt himself on behalf of the memory of Jeffrey Epstein. And it does raise questions about like, how did Epstein die and who signed off on that? And why was Epstein rearrested for crimes he'd already been convicted of and brought back from France to the United States and then gets murdered in prison less than 2 months later? Like, what is that?
The people who are funding the ballroom, the people who are funding the arch, the people who are funding the rebranding of the Kennedy Center, these are the people who are also funding my opponent. These are the people who are dominating our foreign policy decisions, and these are also the same people who are in the Epstein files.
The survival rate of early cancers, stage 1 and 2, is well over 90%. When you pick up cancer late, 5-year survivals are 10, 20%, sometimes less. When you have information, when you have data, it's empowering. Given the tools we have with Function,
I want everyone to just stop and rewind the tape when you said that. Why do you think?
Why did you lie about your relationship with Epstein?
I miss being the
You're not going.
I looked at my picture
Hold on.
Somebody.
Oh, I love that song.
Okay, so today I want to talk about something that I think most people are not seeing clearly yet. And I mean that very literally. Because when you watch the news, when you watch CNN, when you watch Fox News, when you watch the BBC, what do you see? You see a war between America and Iran. Two countries, one conflict. But I want to show you today that this framing is completely wrong. Because what Iran just did, and I want to be very specific about this, is not just fighting a war. What Iran just did is spring a trap. And this trap does not just catch America. This trap pulls China into a direct confrontation with America. And once you understand how this trap works, once you see the structure of it, you will understand why I believe we are now closer to a world war than at any point since 1945. Okay, so let's begin. And as always, I want to start with a thought experiment because I think thought experiments are the best way to understand complicated things. Okay? So imagine you are playing chess, okay? And your opponent is much stronger than you. He has more pieces, he has more experience, he has more resources. If you play a normal game of chess, if you try to fight him piece by piece, you will lose. There is no question about that. So what do? You do not fight him directly. Instead, you create a situation, a position on the board, where no matter what move he makes, he loses something important. You trap him. In chess, we call this a fork. One move attacks two pieces at the same time. Your opponent can only save one. The other one is gone. This is exactly what Iran has done to America. And the second piece, the one America cannot save, is China. Now let me explain this carefully, because this is the core of my entire analysis today. Okay, so first let me give you some background, because to understand what is happening now, you need to understand the relationship between China and Iran. And this relationship is much deeper than most people realize. In 2021, China and Iran signed a 25-year cooperation agreement, okay? This is a very important agreement. Under this agreement, China committed to investing $400 billion into Iran's infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, energy facilities. In exchange, Iran agreed to supply China with heavily discounted oil for 25 years. Okay? So China gets cheap oil. Iran gets investment and economic survival. It is a deal that benefits both sides enormously. Now here is the key number I want you to remember. China currently imports approximately 5.4 million barrels of oil per day through the Strait of Hormuz. Let me say that again. 5.4 million barrels per day through the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran now effectively controls. Think about what this means. China's entire industrial economy, its factories, its supply chains, its manufacturing base, which produces goods for the entire world, runs on oil. And the majority of that oil comes through a strait that Iran controls. This is not a minor detail. This is a strategic dependency of the most profound importance. Okay? So now let me ask you a question. And I want you to think about this very carefully. If you are China, if you are sitting in Beijing watching this war, what is your primary concern? Some people say, well, China is happy. Iran is fighting America. China's enemy is being weakened. Okay, that is one way to look at it. And on the surface, yes, there are some benefits for China. America is being drained militarily. America is being weakened economically. America's credibility in the world is collapsing in real time. But here is the problem. Here is the fork in the chess game. China's oil supply is being disrupted. China pre-purchased oil in the first 2 months of 2026. China's oil imports surged 16% as it tried to build stockpiles, okay? So China was smart. China saw this coming. But no stockpile lasts forever. And every single day that the Strait of Hormuz remains partially closed, China's economic pressure increases. Oil prices are rising. And for every 25% increase in oil prices, China's economy shrinks by approximately 0.5% of GDP. Okay? That does not sound like much. But for an economy already facing pressure, already dealing with domestic challenges, this matters a great deal. So China is being hurt. Not as much as America, not as much as Europe, but China is being hurt. And here is where the trap closes, because China now faces a choice, and either option of this choice pulls China deeper into this conflict. Option 1, China does nothing. China watches Iran fight America alone. But if Iran is defeated, if America destroys the Iranian government and installs a friendly regime, then what? Then China loses its most important oil partner. It loses its $400 billion investment. It loses the 25-year agreement. It loses discounted oil. It loses the Belt and Road Corridor through Iran. Everything China has built in the Middle East over the last decade, gone. If Iran falls, China's entire Middle East strategy collapses. Option 2, China helps Iran. China provides weapons, China provides technology, China provides economic support to keep Iran fighting, and we are already seeing signs of this. Chinese companies have been providing missile components to Iran. Chinese satellite technology has been used to target American forces. Chinese radar systems, navigation technology, dual-use equipment, all flowing to Iran. The Americans have already accused China of providing chip-making tools to Iran's military. They seized an Iranian ship carrying Chinese dual-use equipment. So here is the fork. If China does nothing, it loses Iran and everything that comes with it. If China helps Iran, it risks direct confrontation with America. Either way, either path, China is being pulled deeper into this conflict. This is the trap Iran set, and America, by attacking Iran, triggered it. Now let me go even deeper, because I want to explain why this trap is so dangerous. And to do that, I want to go back to a concept I have discussed many times before. The concept of escalation dominance versus escalation control, okay? So escalation dominance is the American approach. It means I have so much firepower, so much military strength, that I can always escalate higher than you. If you hit me, I hit you harder. If you hit me harder, I hit you even harder. The idea is that at some point, the other side looks up the escalation ladder, sees how high I can go, and decides to stop. That is escalation dominance. Escalation control is the Iranian and the Chinese approach. It means I do not need to match you at every level. Instead, I control when and how escalation happens. I choose my moments. I choose my responses. I keep you guessing. I keep you off balance. And crucially, I make sure that every escalation by you costs you more than it costs me. Now here's the critical question. In a conflict between China and America, which approach wins? And the answer is very clear when you understand the geography. If America and China go to war, where does that war happen? It happens in the Pacific, in China's neighborhood. China has the home advantage. China does not need to project power across 10,000 miles of ocean. China is already there. And this is something the American military fully understands and is terrified by. The Americans spent enormous resources studying the Iran war, watching how their weapons perform against Iranian drones and missiles. They are learning. But here's what is very interesting. China is also watching. China has been studying every American weapon system, every American tactic, every American vulnerability, up close, in real time, in a live combat environment. The Americans are fighting against weapons that China helped design. So China now knows exactly how American systems perform. And America still does not fully know what China has. Okay, now I want to bring in a concept that I think is very important to understand. And this is the concept of what I call the strategic vacuum. Here is the situation. During the Cold War, America was very careful about where it fought wars. Why? Because if America attacked a country that was closely allied with the Soviet Union, the Soviets would respond. So America always had to ask, before every military action, what will the Soviets do? This kept America somewhat disciplined, somewhat rational, but the Soviet Union collapsed. And after 1991, there was no more constraint. America could attack Iraq. No consequence. America could attack Yugoslavia. No consequence. America could attack Libya. No consequence. America could attack Afghanistan. No consequence. Because there was no superpower standing behind these countries saying, if you attack them, you attack us. And this is exactly the situation that lured America into attacking Iran. There was no Chinese military presence in Iran. There were no Chinese soldiers on Iranian soil. So America thought, okay, we can hit Iran. China will complain diplomatically. China will call for a ceasefire, but China will not fight. And on the surface, this seems correct. China has not sent troops. China has not declared war. China is officially neutral. But here is what is actually happening underneath the surface. And this is the most important thing I will say today. China is fighting this war, just not the way America expects. China provided the satellite that Iran used to monitor American military positions for strikes. Chinese radar systems enhanced Iran's electronic warfare capabilities. Chinese missile components flow through third countries into Iran's stockpiles. Chinese geospatial intelligence companies tracked American forces and sold that data to Iranian proxies. Chinese Beidou navigation technology, China's version of GPS, is being used by Iran to direct missile attacks across the region. This is not neutrality. This is warfare by proxy, warfare by supply chain, warfare by technology transfer, and it is working. It is working because America cannot directly punish China for it without opening a second and potentially much more catastrophic front in the Pacific. This is the trap. Iran drew America into into a war. China is helping Iran fight that war through indirect means. And America cannot stop China without risking a direct confrontation, a world war in the Pacific. Okay, now let me talk about what happens next, because I want to give you my game theory analysis of where this goes. I have been saying since 2024 that America will lose the war in Iran, not because Iran is militarily stronger, but because America cannot sustain a war of attrition against a determined, civilizationally unified enemy with a 20-year plan, while simultaneously managing a global economic disruption and a domestic political crisis. And now, with China in the picture, even indirectly, the situation becomes even more impossible for America. Here is why. America right now is stretched across multiple fronts simultaneously. It is bombing Iran. It is managing Yemen's entry into the war. It is watching Iraq's resistance forces strike American bases. It is trying to keep the global economy from collapsing as oil prices rise. It is dealing with domestic political opposition. Only 40% of Americans support this war.
Can I get y'all to hit the like button for me? It's 394 people in here, and I don't even want to tell you how small of amount of likes I have. If you don't know where the like button is, it's 3 dots at the top right corner. If you could go to those 3 dots and hit the thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It's 404 people in here. I need at least 100 of you to tap those 3 dots. Yeah. And hit the thumbs up for me. I'll wait. Yeah, I promise. I am so digging. I don't know what it is about putting a clean, baking soda cleaned penny in my water. It's like it is tasty. Oh my God. And y'all know I am picky on my water. Whoo! But when I tell you this water is tasty, when I put that penny in there, I don't, and I use good pure water. If it's not this one, it is Eternal. If it's not Eternal, it is the alkaline water. But
and now it has to manage a confrontation with China, the world's
they got to get the likes up. But I read about the copper and how a long time ago they used to, if you don't have a copper cup, a real copper cup, and sometimes they be faking like it's real and it's not. So I heard about putting a penny in it. And baby, that is some good water. I ain't gonna even lie. I'm not gonna even lie. It's good water. Are the likes up yet, y'all? I don't know why I don't went upside down and don't want
to. Economy without triggering a...
Where my likes at? Where my likes at? And this one is out of juice. I'm trying to bring y'all the good tea. See, y'all see 4%? Get the likes up before it kick me out. Clean you some pennies, then put one in every of your bottled water. It does something to the energy, the electricity. It triggers the electrical components in your body. And it's good. And I drink it at room temperature. Cause ice gonna have them parasites in it. Unless you have a filter on your ice. When you do ice, it's coming from what water? Get the likes up and I can move forward. Please don't make me stop again. Let me back it up.
Radar system. systems enhanced Iran's electronic warfare capabilities. Chinese missile components flow through third countries into Iran's stockpiles. Chinese geospatial intelligence companies tracked American forces and sold that data to Iranian proxies. Chinese Beidou navigation technology, China's version of GPS, is being used by Iran to direct missile attacks across the region. This is not neutrality. This is warfare by
Galloway
proxy,
Blue Water.
warfare
I'm
by
not
supply
familiar with
chain,
that.
warfare by technology transfer, and it is working. It is working because America cannot directly punish China for it without opening a second and potentially much more catastrophic front in the Pacific. This is the trap. Iran drew America into a war. China is helping Iran fight that war through indirect means. And America cannot
They
stop
leave 'cause
China
they don't wanna
without
hit the
risking a
like
direct
button.
confrontation, a world war in the Pacific. Okay, now let me talk about what happens next, because I want to give you my game theory analysis of where this goes. I have been saying since 2024 that America will lose the war in Iran, not because Iran is militarily stronger, but because America cannot sustain a war of attrition against a determined, civilizationally unified enemy with a 20-year plan, while simultaneously managing a global economic disruption and a domestic political crisis. And now, with China in the picture, even indirectly, the situation becomes even more impossible for America. Here is why. America right now is stretched across multiple fronts simultaneously. It is bombing Iran. It is managing Yemen's entry into the war. It is watching Iraq's resistance forces strike American bases. It is trying to keep the global economy from collapsing as oil prices rise. It is dealing with domestic political opposition. Only 40% of Americans support this war. And now it has to manage a confrontation with China, the world's second largest economy, without triggering a full Pacific war. Each of these problems
Public and
individually
pros.
is manageable. Together, they create what I call a strategic overextension, a situation where the empire is being pulled in too many directions at once and cannot focus its resources effectively on any single problem. And strategic overextension is how empires fall, not from a single decisive defeat, but from being pulled apart slowly from multiple directions simultaneously. Let me give you a historical parallel, because I always come back to history. Think about the British Empire at the end of World War II. Britain won the war. Britain was on the winning side, but the cost of fighting that war, the financial drain, the military overextension, the political exhaustion was so enormous that within 20 years, the British Empire had collapsed. India independent, Africa decolonized, the Middle East gone. The empire that won the war lost everything else in the process. America today is in a similar position. It may win individual battles in Iran. It may destroy Iranian military infrastructure. It may even temporarily reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But the cost of doing all this, in money, in interceptor missiles, in political capital, in global credibility, is draining the foundations of American power. And China, sitting patiently in Beijing, is watching all of this with great satisfaction, because every dollar America spends in Iran is a dollar it cannot spend on the Pacific. Every interceptor missile used against Iranian drones is one less missile available to deter China in Taiwan. Every American general focused on Iran is a general not focused on the South China Sea. This is what strategists call the cost imposition strategy. You do not need to defeat your enemy directly. You just need to force your enemy to spend resources in the wrong place at the wrong time. Iran is imposing costs on America in the Middle East. China is the beneficiary in the Pacific. Okay, now I want to address the big question directly. Is this World War III? And I want to be very careful about this because I do not want to be sensational. I do not want to just say scary things to get views, okay? I want to think about this seriously. So let me define what I mean by World War III, because I do not mean necessarily a war where China and America directly exchange missiles or soldiers. That may or may not happen. What I mean by World War III is a structural confrontation between the two great powers, America and China, that reshapes the entire global order. A confrontation that draws in multiple countries, multiple theaters, multiple economic systems. A confrontation that, when it is over, leaves the world fundamentally different from how it was before. By this definition, yes, I believe we are in the early stages of World War III right now. Here is my reasoning. The war in Iran is not really about Iran. Iran is the battlefield. The real conflict is between two visions of how the world should be organized. On one side, the American vision, dollar dominance, Western financial institutions, American military bases controlling the choke points of global trade, petrodollar recycling keeping the American economy afloat. On the other side, the Chinese vision, a multipolar world, the Belt and Road, the North-South trade corridors, the yuan replacing the dollar for oil transactions, Chinese infrastructure connecting Eurasia to Africa to the Indian Ocean. These two visions cannot coexist. One must win, and the Iran war is the first major direct collision between these two visions. And here's what makes it World War III specifically. Because of the positions of the other major powers. Russia is effectively on Iran's side. Russia provides energy. Russia provides diplomatic cover in the UN Security Council, where it has vetoed resolutions against Iran alongside China. Russia benefits every day that America is distracted in the Middle East and not focused on Ukraine or Eastern Europe. India is trying to stay neutral, but India is buying Iranian oil through back channels. India is part of the North-South transport corridor that connects Russia through Iran to Indian ports. India's economic interests are being affected by the disruption of Gulf trade. Europe is following America, but reluctantly, nervously, with one eye on its own energy security and economic stability. The European economy is already suffering from the oil price increases. Germany's president publicly called this war a huge blunder. Turkey is in a complicated position. Turkey is NATO, but Turkey has its own interests in the Middle East that do not always align with America's. What I am describing is not a simple two-sided war. This is a systemic reorganization of the entire global order. And that is what World War III looks like in the 21st century. Not trenches and fronts and declarations of war. It looks like economic warfare, proxy warfare, technology transfer, energy disruption, financial system fragmentation, and the slow collapse of the institutions that held the post-World War II order together. Okay, now let me come back to Iran specifically, because I want to make sure you understand what Iran actually did strategically that triggered all of this. Iran understood something that America did not. Iran understood that the real war is not on the battlefield. The real war is in the global economic system. And the Strait of Hormuz is the most powerful economic weapon on the planet. Think about it. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow stretch of water, about 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. 20% of the world's oil supply passes through it. 5.4 million barrels of Chinese oil per day. Europe's energy supply, Japan's industrial fuel, South Korea's manufacturing base. All of it flows through this tiny strait. And Iran controls the shores on one side. Iran has missile bases, drone factories, naval assets positioned throughout the Persian Gulf. And crucially, Iran controls this strait from deep inside its own territory, from underground bases inside mountains that America has not been able to destroy despite weeks of bombing. By threatening the Strait of Hormuz, by demonstrating that it can disrupt global oil flows, Iran did not just threaten America's war effort, Iran threatened the entire global economy. And in doing so, Iran forced every major power, China, Russia, India, Europe, to have a stake in how this war ends. This is geopolitical genius, because now America cannot just fight Iran. America has to manage the reactions of every other major power simultaneously. China is supplying Iran indirectly. Russia is providing diplomatic cover. India is quietly buying discounted oil. Europe is nervous and divided. And all of these powers have different interests and different red lines. America has to satisfy all of them simultaneously while also trying to win a military campaign. It is impossible. Okay, so let me give you my final analysis, my prediction, because I know that is what you are here for. I have 3 predictions, and as always, these are not prophecy. These are structural analysis, game theory applied to historical patterns. Prediction 1. America will eventually be forced to accept an exit from this war that looks like a negotiated settlement, but is actually a strategic retreat. Why? Because the economic and political cost of continuing this war will become unsustainable. Not in 20 years, I think within the next year or 2. The interceptor missiles are running out. The political will is running out. The money is running out. And the oil price disruption is creating an economic crisis that affects American voters directly. Prediction 2. China will emerge from this war significantly stronger, not because China fought, but because China let America fight while China quietly secured its position. China will inherit Iran as an economic partner, fully embedded in the Belt and Road. China will take control of the Middle East's data infrastructure, AI centers, surveillance systems, 5G networks, as Gulf states, nervous about American reliability, turn to China for technology. China will become the primary mediator and the dominant economic power in the Middle East, without firing a single bullet in anger. Prediction 3, and this is the big one, the dollar-based global financial system, the petrodollar, will be permanently weakened by this war, because the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, will look at what happened and ask themselves a question. If we rely on America for our security, and America starts a war that puts our water supplies, our oil installations, and our cities at risk, is American security worth having? The answer, I believe, will increasingly be no. And as Gulf states look for alternatives, as they diversify their partnerships toward China and toward neutral powers, the foundation of dollar dominance begins to erode. This is the long-term consequence of what Iran just did. Iran did not just fight a war. Iran triggered a reorganization of the entire global order. Iran forced the confrontation between American hegemony and Chinese ambition that was always coming, but perhaps would have waited another decade. Iran pulled that confrontation forward into the present. And America, by attacking Iran without a plan, without political will, without manufacturing capacity to sustain the campaign, without allies willing to fight, walked straight into the trap. The fork in the chess game is closed. America cannot save both pieces. It cannot maintain its position in the Middle East and simultaneously contain China in the Pacific. It does not have the resources, the political will, or the strategic clarity to do both. And so, as I have said since 2024, America will lose this war. Not on the battlefield necessarily, but in the wider strategic sense, in the global order, in the financial system, in the balance of power between East and West that will define.
So, in other words, that New World Order mess, it's not going to work. The New World Order is not going to work. It won't work. No weapon formed against us should prosper. It ain't gonna work. They losing now. Right? They losing now. They weak now. They ill prepared now. They're not as strong as we used to be because of Trump. So they thought they chose the right person, but in essence, you chose the wrong person. It exposed all of y'all controversies, all of y'all hidden secrets. All of that has been exposed. And you show us as weak. We look weak. So how can they run a new world order? No. It shows them as weak. Let's finish this up and then I'll get to Kent. Oh, this is finished. Okay, let me get to Candace. It shows us as weak, y'all. I mean, I hate to say it because I am born in the USA, but this person that's in place right now, oh, he mocks the ceasefire. This person that's in place right now, he's the enemy of the states. I don't know how else to say it nicely, but that is what it is. Okay, y'all, I'm finna switch gears and I'm gonna need for y'all to hit the like button. Hit the like button, please. Hit the like button, Auntie Fee. Hit the like button for the good OT. Okay. Let's get to Candace. I would greatly appreciate if y'all would hit the like button. Show some appreciation for getting y'all to the facts. But sometimes I believe y'all like running with the lies. What it do? What we doing? What we on? Where we going? It's Friday night. It's just 9:34. I'm doing good time. I wasn't coming at all. Hey, Belinda, this is not good. And we did not want to mess with these people. Nope, we sure did not. But they wanted to steal, ill, and destroy, and start a new world dictatorship order. And these people was on board, and they bought into the U.S. being a force of business, a force of nature, the one who can get it done and make it, and just as weak as hell. All he do is lie. And now they plotting against him. Release the full Epstein file. And then we won't have to be going through all of this. Just release the Epstein files. And now they finna start releasing aliens and stuff. Okay, y'all ready? That Erica Kirk. Okay, let's go.
I just watched somebody make $12,000 selling a t-shirt that took them literally minutes to make. They opened
saying that she wanted to go home after the White
Y'all ready to switch gears? Are we ready to switch gears? Get the lights up. Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday. I just want to say at the top here that it has been 35 days, 35 long days, since we have publicly and politely, I might add, we've requested to see the footage of Charlie Kirk naming his wife, Erica Kirk, as the chairman and CEO in the event that anything happens to him. Quote, I appoint my wife, Erica Kirk, right? No such luck. And that's odd. That's very odd to me. Considering Blakey Neff, who thinks I am a checks notes maniac brandishing a knife, screaming at people on the subway, whatever that means. Nonetheless, he's apparently a huge fan of the show. He accidentally revealed how many hours of the show he consumes when he shared a screen grab of his computer. He was trying to diss me. Then people noticed that the screen grab shows you the load bar. Look at this. He's making fun of me, but then actually people zoomed in and said, hey, that little red bar at the end tells you how much progress he's made it through every episode of Candace. So I can say, truly, that Blake is a friend of the show. I mean, what can I say? I make a lot of friends. I am friendly. Anyway,
he a fan.
About a week ago, a little over a week ago, we put up a bounty for footage or information which would help us better understand how that remarkably timely footage of Erica saying that she wanted to go home after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, how exactly did that come to be? I just wanted to know. And it looks like we may have the beginning of an answer. Welcome back to Candace.
Let's go, Candace.
Okay, so at the top of the show, I just want to tell you guys, Israel is going max on propaganda. Like super max on propaganda. We've been talking about it a lot this week. All of these organizations that they're putting together, they're filing FARA for the first time ever. And it's sort of exceptional. So You remember we told you, obviously, about Show Faith by Works, LLC. That's that FAR-registered propaganda arm of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. And I was interested as we were going through their filings of their stated goal to provide the October 7th experience. The October 7th experience, coming to a church parking lot near you. And I was like, that doesn't sound very pleasant. That just doesn't sound very pleasant. Are we going to have people paragliding into parking lots? Like, what exactly is that going to look like? And gratefully, my producer stumbled upon the details. I hadn't realized that in this FAR filing, which we had just sort of glimpsed through for the relevant details to the episode, but they also included an entire detailed accounting of the propaganda that they intend to execute upon Christian minds. It is thorough. And I'm not going to go through it all today, but I really want to encourage Christians to take time to read through that filing. Take your time to process, especially if you are evangelical, because this is effectively evangelical ultra, okay? That they are targeting evangelicals, and with the recent news that they will be upping the spend to, what is like $750 million, almost $1 billion. The how is actually really relevant. Like, that's a lot of money to spend to shape minds. How are you going to do that? And the October 7th experience is one part of the puzzle. So what is it? Check out this slide that they inserted in the just, I have to laugh. I am sorry. I am not laughing at October 7th. I am laughing at the October 7th experience as an idea. We have got to get real, people. This is weird. Okay? This is weird. This is beyond weird. We're looking at VR headsets, and they're going to come by. It's mobile, so they can just kind of drive the bus. I want to know who's driving the bus, who's bringing all the stuff. They're going to just set up, and they're going to give people the October 7th experience. They're going to build this trailer. They're going to use Hollywood set designers. You're going to be able to reserve it. Yeah, if you'd like, you can have a tent.
This is the perfect pair for your iPhone.
A tent.
And it replaces 3 different chargers. So when I travel, I don't pack extra cables. I don't have to pack extra.
A tent. Y'all see how I'm looking at y'all? A tent. A VR experience.
It tells us that there's going to be a TV mounted, wrapped with images of Israel or the Western Wall. So that's part of the experience. It's going to be a call to action using biblical messaging. But the real important part is this VR experience that you're going to have of October 7th. This is weird.
And they're going to be in your
this level
purses.
of propaganda is weird.
While y'all covered up with the thing on your eyes.
Please, if you're an evangelical, take your time to go through those FARA filings, because they're playing no games with what they want to do, and they are targeting churches. And we noticed it early on the show, obviously, all year. We've been talking about how these pastors are given notes and being paid to say things on stage, attacking people in politics for saying sensible things about Israel. They're leveling up. Bot campaigns. You're going to think the comment section, if you think the comment section in Facebook is real, it's just not. They have completely fake bots that actually mirror real people, and they're trying to make you think that you're alone in your own ideas while they're dropping thousands, hundreds of thousands of bots to tell you, like, oh, this person's great. What are you talking about?
That's why I kick them out.
Anyway, it's war for your mind. Switching gears, however, to the main topic of today. Last week, we put out a bounty. I was not playing around. I said $10,000. $10,000 for more information. Regarding what? Well, we were interested in that video of Erica Kirk departing the White House Correspondents' Dinner. A dinner in which we,
don't understand why
General
she was
Public,
there.
for some odd reason, we got into trouble for it. Right? I don't know why we got grounded, but we got grounded immediately. They were coming out. The messaging was that it was our fault that this happened to Erica. Like, suddenly, we got to watch Erica. We didn't do anything. We were at home. Most of us were eating dinner with our family. Suddenly, we learn via the internet that Erica is in Washington, D.C. at a press dinner.
I just want to go
Before she gets
home.
there, she's taking bridal shots or something. That part was weird. No, nobody's talking about that enough. That was weird. Here's Erica before the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
She carries light behind her eyes, even when the doctor.
Rational people.
What are we doing?
Or the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
She carries light behind her eyes, even when the doctor.
Girl.
Rational people were wondering, hey, Erica, why are you inside of the sheer curtains? That's a pretty classic bridal shot. What are you doing there? What's happening? We knew that we were probably off to a bad start. Next thing we know, we're being told that there were shots fired, and then there's another video of Erica that comes out, and it's going viral, and she says that she wants to go home. Here it is.
I just want to go
I just want to go home.
So we said instantly, yay! Okay, good idea. Not to boast, but that's actually kind of been our idea, right? That's our idea. Erica, go home was the general public's idea for a very long time. And we were being told that that was not acceptable, but we were happy to let her take credit for the idea and just get home. Next thing we know, not only does she steal our idea and says she's going to go home, that was our idea, sweetie, then we start getting screamed at on the internet. We don't even know what we did wrong. As so much was happening, I couldn't keep up. It was just like a blackout rage on X of people screaming at us about Erica, right? Graham Allen, of course, resident psycho. He wrote, "You can hear Erica Kirk say, I just want to go home. Pray for her! Pray for her children! How much horror should one woman have to be exposed to? Absolutely horrific." Like,
people pass away all the time.
To this dinner. Then we had Michaela
And they
Peterson,
don't get no
who has been
special
filling in for her
treatment.
father. She writes, "I don't want to share the video of Erica Kirk last night, but that is what PTSD looks like. Heartbreaking. The mockery it triggered just strengthens my faith in God. There are times when seeing the good in the world is more difficult, but you can always see the evil." Then we had Ian Miles Chong. We still don't know what he's doing involved at all in American politics. He writes, "All the endless conspiracy theorizing and attacks on Erica Kirk by Candace Owens led to this. It didn't have to be like this. Erica does not deserve this." Like, what?
She don't deserve to be a part of the stage play.
Of that. I never once said anything about her being inside of sheer curtains. It's crazy. Then this person, Bible in Context, wrote, "Shots fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner at President Trump and the First Lady were rushed off stage. This is what happens when propaganda and lies are spread online by people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. Why do they want Trump dead?" Okay. Again, like I said, very confusing.
Why do America want
remember
him
us telling
unalive?
Erica, almost the CEO, and to go home. Go home, be with your kids. And the people who were doing the yelling at us were saying the opposite. They were saying, let her stay in the public eye, let her be the CEO, let her fulfill Charlie's role. So it was like just like upside down world for a second. And making matters more confusing was the lecture that we then eventually had to endure from Erica herself. Like her choice of outfit, there were even some portions of the speech that didn't exactly land. Like this portion about the wine bottles.
It was time to take our seats, and we went into the big ballroom where the dinner was. And one of the first things I noticed when I walked into that room was quite literally the proximity of the opposing outlets to one another. So you have one table here that's Politico, and another table here that's Fox, and another table here that's WAPO, and you're all crammed together, elbow to elbow. And to make the night even more of a spectacle, every single 10-person table had 10 bottles of wine.
What
Girl, did you get, was you drunk?
This magical use of spices.
Was you drunk?
I was perplexed. Proximity of the opposing outlets to one another. So you have one table here that's Politico, and another table here that's Fox, and another table here that's WAPO, and you're all crammed together, elbow to elbow. And to make the night even more of a spectacle, every single 10-person table had 10 bottles of wine.
Everybody had their own bottle. What you talking about?
I was perplexed. Like, what exactly was up with the wine bottle shot out there? Well, even more of a spectacle. There were 10 bottles of wine.
So we paid for everybody to have their own bottle.
What did the wine bottles do wrong? What did we do wrong? Is anybody going to bother to tell us why she was in that curtain taking a bridal shot? It all felt unfair. I felt like Matilda Wormwood. You know her, Matilda Wormwood. She was my favorite. Her parents were awful to her, and they always yelled at her for no reason, and that is how I felt. Like I was being yelled at for no reason. Anyway, I don't like being put into timeout for something that I didn't do. Nobody puts baby in the corner without a valid reason, so I wanted to investigate it. The timing was weird. The shot was weird of her walking out. The footage, the instantaneous virility of the video was weird. It didn't feel real. So we put out that 10K bounty. We just wanted proof of who recorded it. And lo and behold, we got a couple of very interesting direct tips, people keen to collect the 10K. And here's what we learned. And I'm going to say, allegedly here, I have a sense that this first person is telling the truth for a few reasons. One, this person works in politics. Two, this person reached out almost instantly following our show with a very specific story with very specific names, and they offered to sign a sworn affidavit. Three, this person gave us the name of who recorded the video, and it is a person who appears to have done some work with Turning Point USA in the past. So those are the pros. Now on the con side, this person works in politics, right? Not exactly someone I would describe as a fan of mine. So there is a chance he or she is therefore making it up to embarrass me. But at the moment that you are transacting, the moment that you're taking money, it's not a gotcha, it's a crime, right? You can't say, I was just kidding and I got 10K from you, but you never rule it out. All things are possible, and this is why we vet our tips very seriously. Anyway, here's what we were told. Allegedly, following the shooting, a political operative whose name we are going to withhold at this moment until we can confirm it beyond a shadow of a doubt, and we think we will be able to do that imminently. Apparently, this freelancing operative was positioned in advance with the specific instruction to take that exact video at that exact place at that exact time. The operative was allegedly in communication with digital media teams, and the entire moment was staged, captured, and then intentionally shared amongst those digital media teams and their operatives, whereupon it was made to go viral. Now, that is, of course, devastating if it is true. There's another person who has a video and has sent evidence. It's a still of the video. I believe that is actually a still of the video. We checked that. That's not AI. It is definitively an angle that other people have not seen. But they want me to pay a partial portion before they send the full 30-second video. So that's a gamble. I would say it's a gamble, but it might be one that I'm willing to take. I might be out a couple of $1,000s, but the reward would be a video of everything to confirm things. All of this to say, we are going to get our answer, and my every instinct is that the video was staged. I didn't buy that Sarah Seidner of CNN, who initially put the video online, recorded it. She stopped short of saying that she recorded it. She said she was there around when Erica walked out, but I felt that she likely had that video sent to her, and then she put it online. So I will ask this question now in advance before I am turned into public enemy number one. I already am public enemy number one. Well, maybe it's Tucker Carlson. If we are able to confirm this in the coming days, that this entire shot was staged, and I have a suspicion, I have a hunch, what will they say next? How hard are we going to get gaslit? What could they say? Well, they could say, she didn't know. It was unbeknownst to her. Maybe this was like fast PR. Maybe it was Andrew Colvett. Maybe Andrew Colvett was texting someone and said, okay, I gotta go get the shot. Erica's about to walk out over here, whatever. And Erica really had no idea. Someone did it without her knowledge or did it without her consent. Someone sold her grief. How terrible would that be? Even though we know we had merch sales and hat sales. Felt like that was kind of the whole point of this, selling grief. I just want to know, how far are they realistically going to take it? I look at this situation, I look at everything that's happening, and I don't think any of us doubt. I think we're starting to see what's happening. We are living in a world of make-believe.
Absolutely.
Everything about that White House Correspondents' shooting made very little sense. Least of all, the immediate reaction from the very same people, I should add, who were lecturing us about Erica for our apparent failure to keep her safe.
Hi, Jeff.
They all got together and said the same thing. This is why Trump needs a ballroom. They all instantly said, look at the amount of accounts saying this. Just look across the board at the people who are saying this. Randy Fine, right? Whatever he says needs to happen, the opposite thing needs to happen. He says, we better never again hear a peep from anyone complaining about a White House ballroom. Huh? The shooting made you think about a ballroom, Randy Fine, Andrew Colvett?
Mm-hmm.
This is why the president needs to build the White House ballroom? Everyone that I don't trust, Meghan McCain in the mix. I don't want to hear one more thing about Trump's new ballroom at the White House. No, he needs the ballroom. All of these people just at the same time thought the same thing and tweeted out that Trump, obviously, when they saw he needs the ballroom that never existed. For some reason, he didn't need a ballroom when the shooting happened in Butler. He didn't need a ballroom under any other occasion. Are we pretending that Trump doesn't have events all the time? Like literally all events all the time at Mar-a-Lago? Why does he specifically need a ballroom at the White House in order for him to have an event? That's like oddly specific. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Trump has events at the White House, by the way. He had an event shortly thereafter at the White House. Why does he specifically need this ballroom? And why are we pretending like that doesn't feel like it's weird that people believe that what happened was staged on the basis of how these people responded, right? What are we supposed to believe? A shooting happens and what? Quick, what's your first thought? Well, once upon a time, it used to be, get down. Someone call 911. Is everyone okay? Oh, thank goodness, nobody is hurt. Wow. We need to talk about security.
Security.
In this like new world of make-believe, which we seem to have stepped fully into since Charlie Kirk's assassination, they want us to believe the normal thing is, this is why Trump needs a ballroom. Quick, Terrell, get the camera behind Charlie's head ASAP and use the chair that he just died in to do it. Violate the crime scene. Get the ballroom. Everything is now feeling illusory. And it also kind of feels like we're running into this moment, like something is about to explode. They're becoming increasingly desperate because all of us have sort of had the scales removed from our eyes. And I will say that if, and it seems likely, if we are able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that that moment was staged, is really not going to be good for the MAGA movement, the Make Israel Great Again movement, Trump, everything his administration has become. I just think it's going to be really, really bad, and I don't see how they're going to be able to wiggle Erica Kirk out of another one of these narratives. Anyway, we'll be back after a brief break. All right, you guys, summer is here, which means longer days, more sun, more time outside, and honestly, it's the perfect moment to reset your skin. Video, sounds like there were a few people who received that video in the industry with thousands of. If you were a part of the digital team that received that video, sounds like there were a few people who received that video. You, again, I will say, 10K, no questions asked. I will protect you as a source. More tips at CandaceOwens.com. Looking for who were the digital teams that were involved in getting that video out to the public. 10K, no questions asked, even if you are a complete and utter sleaze, and I'm on a different side than you are in this. I will still pay the money and never tell people that we ever spoke. Anyway, moving on. As I said earlier at the top of the show, Israel is at war with American minds. They really do believe, and this is what's most fascinating, is that it's just a certain amount of money that they need to spend, right? There's a certain amount of money that they believe they can spend, which will outright purchase our perspectives. The psychological games are being played. And to their credit, they have almost outright purchased Washington, D.C., right? The money given to congressmen from AIPAC to get them to prioritize Israeli interests over America's sons and daughters, never-ending wars. A great example of that is occurring right now. Thomas Massie, who has for a very long time been my favorite congressman because he consistently votes against sending our money overseas, and he cannot be bought by AIPAC. He declines that sort of bribery from Israel. And so what do they want? They want him unseated. Trump he's very vocal. He's teaming up with AIPAC to unseat an actually America First candidate. So Thomas Massie joined Tucker Carlson on his show last night, and this is what he had to share about how they're getting involved in his race in Kentucky. Take a listen.
So what is the current polling in your race?
It's a single point lead for me. It's not very fluid. They've spent $10 million against me.
It's crazy.
Oh,
And when I
wow.
say they, I hope we get into they.
Yes.
And it's going to be close. It's just going to be, the result is going to be based on who turns out.
So it was 81% margin, 76, 75, like full-on blowouts in the Republican primary in your district in Kentucky, and now it's within a couple of points and you could lose.
Correct.
And the difference is they have spent $10 million against you. So
That should
I don't
be
think anyone would
no.
dispute
Oh
that.
my
That's the difference.
God.
The money poured into this race from outside of Kentucky is basically pushing you to the point of almost losing, and you may lose. Where'd that money come from?
Well, it didn't come from regular people. It's come from billionaires, and 95% of it, at least 95%, has come from the Israeli lobby. So I'll give you their proxies. The RJC, which is the Republican Jewish Coalition, AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, and John Paulson went together. They funded a PAC called MAGA Kentucky, which is neither MAGA nor Kentucky, but when the ad
Any of them live? No, who are those three people?
They have been, Miriam Adelson is the gambling magnate who ironically makes money from the Chinese now gambling and not in Las Vegas.
And
so
she's
much.
literally an Israeli.
Yeah, she was born there.
Yeah.
She's given over $200 million to the president. He puts her on the stage. He says that she's influenced his own policy and attitudes toward Israel. And so she's trying to buy a congressional seat in Kentucky, along with the rest of these groups that are probably, by the way, getting her money as well. And there's also another interesting faction called Christians United for Israel. They're really just another wing of AIPAC and RJC that's been used to co-opt Christians into supporting their position. And their position is more war, it's more strife, it's more bombs, it's send more foreign aid, and those
Wow.
are the things that I've been voting against. So the real reason that this race is a serious race and I may lose is because a foreign lobby has fully funded to the extent
Not a bot.
that they've never done in any Republican race ever before, my opponent.
Well, in Miriam's defense, she outright purchased the White House. Why wouldn't she be able to afford a congressional seat from Kentucky? That's what she's thinking. She's like, yeah, we've got money. And we have to cover this stuff because we just have to be aware. This is what's happening. They want into the
Absolutely.
schools. They want to change the definition of what anti-Semitism is to basically mean noticing what's happening, what this foreign country is doing. This is a takeover. America is occupied. There's no question at all that our government is occupied, that Trump's administration is completely occupied, and they are not serving the American people. This is despicable. It shouldn't happen. If you are in Kentucky, vote for Thomas Massie. I'm going to hope and pray that he wins. Anyway, you guys, switching gears, I guess it's kind of a part of this as well. This is the same kind of money that goes into PR, public relations. We have seen it. That's a big piece of this Charlie Kirk story, is the nastiness of the PR, the war on our minds, trying to convince us that this Tyler Robinson story makes sense. It simply doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense. We all know it doesn't make any sense. We're going to pretend it's all because of Candace Owens trying to free Tyler Robinson. We're trying to get you to tell us a narrative that makes sense outside of fed sloppy text messages, full-blown confession coming from a kid who is supposed to have like a 4.3 GPA, I believe, in high school. This is interesting to me. Obviously, we start to see that they're all fumbling all over the place. Andrew Colbert being at the center of that, the dirty tricks that he's getting caught working with these YouTubers and these really nasty people. One of these people being House and Habit, Jessica Reed Krause, right? She's been working with her. That was revealed a few weeks ago. A totally unstable, manic alcoholic. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from her former employees, people who have worked with her and know her, and also in part coming from her husband. So this is just hilarious because I told you guys this backstory of this conversation that I had with Andrew Colbert back when things were good, when he called me and he asked me, and in earnest, if I was a witch, because he saw that when people attack me, the rate at which something sort of boomerangs into their life is pretty fast. He was speaking about the Daily Wire, He was talking about Dennis Prager, I think it was specifically, who had written this whole thing about me publicly, and then he fell down the stairs. Obviously, that actually is very sad. David Horowitz, I believe, did this whole big piece, and then very shortly thereafter, which was also very sad, one of my first events I ever did was for his Freedom Center. He passed away. I saw this recently. Alexis Wilkins, which this was just funny, did that whole weird thread about Russia and General Flynn and me and the Catholic Church all working together because she didn't understand what a retweet was. The day after she did that, Kash Patel's emails got hacked. It was super funny. And I was like, dang, Andrew Kovacs going to be like, what? Well, anyway, House and Habit has been the one attacking my husband as of, like, not as of recent, like over the last few weeks. She is the one that posted that totally freakish, obviously fake AI photo of George wearing a silk shirt. Here it is. It just doesn't even look kind of real, with Milo, because she's just claiming that he's gay. Milo had, of course, had never met my husband when they lived in London at all. They did not run the same circles. Also, it was just terrible to imagine George wearing a silk shirt under a sports coat. That was the worst part of all right there. But you know, these are the people who are just dirty and will do these sorts of things. They're desperate for anybody that will support Israel. And the rebound of this, boomerang of this, Daily Mail did a massive spread today on her marriage and what's going on behind the scenes. And this is the headline. Daily Mail is very savage about doing these sorts of things, but they wrote, MAGA influencer House and Habit's marriage secrets revealed. Insiders blow the lid on explosive escort claims. Socialites call her effing insane behavior and her husband's mortifying texts regarding her, which they published. Well, how did this come about? I guess they got interested because House and Habit did the thing that she always does. It's 3 a.m. and she just randomly decides to attack someone. And that someone, her name is, that she attacked was Ashley St. Clair. Jessica Reed Krause is House and Habit's real name, by the way. She randomly attacked Ashley St. Clair, who she used to be friendly with, because it's Tuesday and she's drunk, right? And Ashley didn't do anything to her. She's like, what the heck is this about? So Ashley decided to just come out and tell the story about how she was with Jessica Reed Krause when she found out that her husband was on some hooker websites. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently there is a website where hookers can rate their clients. So they can signal to one another. It's about staying clean and safe, I guess. They can signal to one another that the person requesting services is safe and not going to beat them up or some crazed person. So they rate them. And Jessica Reed Krause discovered that her husband was on this site and confided in Ashley St. Clair. And so Ashley St. Clair just went ahead and spilled all of the tea after she randomly caught a midnight, 3 a.m. period, between that period of time, bullet from House and Habit after too many drinks. So the Daily Mail did their due diligence. They went ahead and confirmed that the review was real, that it was his number. And I have to also just say, it was a nice review, right? This is from the article. The article says, there his number was with its own review, quote, he's a white man, safe to see, and brought a donation as agreed, read the Post from October 5th, 2024. Krause became distraught. She left the table, St. Clair told the Daily Mail. I'll never forget watching your face as we read those reviews and you did the math and the review.
Like I said, I need this hot tea.
While you were out of town. The Daily Mail spoke to House and Habit. Jessica Reed Krause did not deny the incident, but she disputed the characterization of it, telling the Daily Mail that her husband's number appeared on the app because as a public political figure, her family is targeted by spammers, and that she was confused at the moment, and she had no idea what it was, and she has photo evidence that actually, and guest witnesses that prove that her husband was actually at a friend's wedding when the review was posted.
Kitazawa Seed Company, one of the oldest seed brands in the USA since 1970.
I don't know about that guy. I don't know if she said the account was inaccurate, designed to inflict harm and embarrassment on myself and my family. Girl, you do a pretty good job of that yourself, actually. They also spoke to her husband. He said the number was his, but he wasn't really certain how it ended up on the Mr. Number app. Elsewhere in the article, though, it gets to kind of the meat and bones of it, and it's her husband's text messages that he sent to other people about the state of their marriage. And it's really sad. It's actually really sad. It's what we see demonstrated in her behavior just online, generally speaking. It's about how she treats him, how she yells at him, calls him effing lazy. Just a perfect profile on sort of the destructiveness of who these operators are that are hanging around the White House and going after people, drinking so they can get into, Mar-a-Lago completely sloshed and willing to try to inflict harm. Her coworkers described her as a manic drunk, highly abusive, gets high on the abuse. And it really just, you zoom out and you go, these are the people that Turning Point is now dealing with. This is who Andrew Colvett has running his PR, or a piece of his PR going out to these certain people. Why would you work with these sorts of dogs if you didn't want to get fleas? You know what I mean? And it's when people are in a state of desperation, when no one wants to partner with them or work with them or believes in them anymore, when they can't do things the clean way and the right way, they resort to these sorts of miserable people who take swipes at people because of what's going on in their own home. They're always in glass houses, and it really is just remarkable. And I just think it's a real reflection on the state of politics today. And I just thought, man, that couldn't have been more of her perfect karma after all of the crap that she was putting out about my husband, who has nothing to do with D.C., me, who has nothing to do with D.C. I want nothing to do with the White House. I'm completely embarrassed that I supported Trump in the past because of, the fact that he completely flipped on his entire base. It used to be cool to wear a MAGA hat. No one would be caught dead wearing a MAGA hat nowadays. I guess maybe you could say the MAGA movement might be caught wearing a MAGA hat nowadays, but certainly not old MAGA, old school MAGA. Anyways, that's all I want to really say about that. We'll be right back after a brief break. All right, you guys, are you doing all the right things for your health, but still wondering if there's more that you could of your gut? Visit purgestore.com/Candace or use code Candace at checkout for 15% off your entire order, plus the free tops. All right, guys, we need 12,000 more subscribers on YouTube to hit 6 million. So if you are watching right now and you are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so that we can come out with our next cup. Also, give me some ideas in the chat for what we should have on our next Standis Cup. 6 million is the number we will hit, and we got to drop a new Standis Cup. It's been a journey, man. How fun this has been. Anyway, top comment from yesterday's episode. They wrote, next they'll accuse Candace and George of being 2 weeks away from developing nuclear.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. Do I want to play let's go ahead. I'm already here.
Weapons. I don't even know what they could throw at us anymore. I feel like that way about Tucker too. I'm just like, okay, I feel like they've said everything, and there's a freedom in that when people say everything, because it just gets beyond ridiculous. Design Rhythm writes, the fact that Erica didn't fire every single security officer and sue their company is the biggest red flag in world history. Well, actually, I'm just reminding you that she did tell me they were preparing lawsuits against Brian Harpole, and that doesn't seem like that happened. And as I showed you yesterday, there seems to be evidence that actually Andrew Colvett might have been in some sort of communication, maybe via the YouTubers, those military bros, with Brian Harpole. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's not real. Maybe he went on Sean Ryan. I do believe the story, by the way, that he went on Sean Ryan without their permission. She told me that, and there definitely seems to be some evidence that is true, that entire PR disaster blunder happened without them knowing. We'll see. I'm assuming it's true. Anyway, I just don't know what to believe anymore when it comes to Turning Point USA. Certainly not when it comes to Andrew Colvett and Erica Kirk. Actually, I had a journalist ask me, what are the questions you have for her? I'm like, look, I can boil it down to like 3 that I think are the most significant, right? Or what lies. Obviously, the biggest lie being that the surgeon said that he had a steel neck. That feels like every reporter should just be demanding every day for some sort of clarity on why she would lie and why Andrew Colvett would lie, and they would put words in the surgeon's mouth. Why she would say that Andrew went rogue and she actually initiated the phone call and it was a 3-way phone call. Like, why are we being gaslit about that? That's weird. That's weird. Right? That would definitively be number 1. Number 2, AI Charlie. I'm sorry. No reporters are interested in that. That'd be pretty relevant if they cooked up a whole story about how Charlie, just before he died, pulled a complete 180 on his viewpoints on how he wanted his wife to stay home and raise the children and have a fulfilled life, and suddenly was like, you know what? No, actually, if I die, I want you to take my place and also risk your life so that you might die and our kids will be left alone as orphans. Like, that doesn't feel good. It sounds like AI. They said they had a video. They're not presenting the video. Donors are saying that the video is completely AI and they were present and Charlie never said that. Like, how is that not the most viral number 1 story in the world? At least in America.
They don't want you to catch the lie.
His wife could have faked something like that. Maybe she didn't. The video would certainly clarify it.
Oh, girl, I love your thick eyebrows. Oh, Shout out to the thick eyebrows. Somebody tried to play with me about thick eyebrows, baby, that were drawn on. Yes, airbrushed on, however they got on. Shout out to the thick eyebrow. Hey, Colin. Yeah, I need for you to get in tune with the thick eyebrow, baby. Get out them backwoods and get to drawing. Yeah, you think yours is thick, but they could be thicker. Yeah, it'll cover up that spot on big old knot on your forehead. Balance your face off. Get into the thick eyebrow, baby. You thought you had a funny one under somebody else under that troll page. I caught you, boo. Yeah, get into the thick eyebrow. Yours ain't thick enough. Coolin'. Now somebody go run back and tell her I said it. Yeah. Shout out to the thick eyebrow crew. We see you. Yeah. Hold on, y'all. Let's move to the last one. Auntie P, that just came out of nowhere. Yeah, I just noticed how pretty and thick her eyebrows was, baby. I try to tell these people that's big business and big eyebrows. Big business with big eyebrows. You better get caught up. You behind, child. All these wannabe actresses and yeah, you behind time. Here I come. Let's get on to the next one. Boy, I caught them eyebrows and it just, woo. Shout out to the, ain't nothing wrong with the thin ones, but ain't nothing wrong with the thick ones either. It's big business. Big business. And whether we know it or not, it balances your face off better than the thin eyebrows. Get into it. If not, stay where you are. I'm cool with that too. But don't think you finna make no jokey on me. Big eyebrow business. Let's go. Hold on. I'm trying to get to the next one. Big eyebrow business. How long have I been? 2 hours and 30 minutes. Yeah, let me go ahead and get to ending this. Hold on.
With Starlink to deliver high-speed.
Keep my lights up.
Wherever you live. Connect Starlink to.
A lot. Hook, line, and sinker. All right, you guys. Happy Wednesday. What do I have for you today? A lot. Hook, line, and sinker. Jeremy Boring. All right, you guys, happy Wednesday. What do I have for you today? A lot. Hook, line, and sinker. Jeremy Boring, former CEO of Daily Wire, goes on the offense against my husband. That's odd. People don't normally do that. Encouraging reporters to look into Laura Loomer's claims. Did Candace lie to DHS? He's kind of putting down that sort of energy. I guess you can just toss another coin in the I told you so jar. Daily Wire operates like a deranged cult, and they will never stop trying to destroy my life. We're going to speak about that. We're also going to discuss Brian Harpole, though, first and foremost, because he sent out some more legal notices that you should know about. And his most recent one is beyond interesting to me. I think you will find this to be very, very interesting indeed, right? Because it's a dog that isn't barking. We are learning about our legal system, if nothing else, and there are a lot of people, it turns out, who abuse it for retaliation. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, let's start with the interesting updates regarding Brian Harpole's lawsuit against me for defamation. Namely, that they are beginning to send out what are known as preservation orders, okay? Essentially what this means is that when you receive one, no matter who you are, is you're not allowed to delete anything. It will sort of list through here is what you are no longer allowed to delete. Their lawyer will send it. You can't delete your text messages, your signal messages. Don't delete any communications between you and this person, emails, etc. It's basically a way of letting someone know that they may be in possession of something that is relevant to helping either the defense or the prosecution build their case against someone else or to protect somebody else, okay? So it's saying, it signals, we're going to try to subpoena this information in the future, and you have a hold. Don't delete anything. So how do I know that this is what they are doing? Well, because their lawyers emailed my team wanting me to give them Ian Carroll's address. I have actually never had Ian Carroll's address. I think he kind of lives like a nomad. They were operating, it appears to me, like under some delusion that he was a regular co-host of this show or a host of the show and that he worked for me, when actually, as you all know, he just filled in for me while I was on maternity leave last year, and we paid for his Airbnb while he did so. I could give them the Airbnb address, but I don't think that would be helpful. Anyway, I was a bit confused, I have to say. I was very confused as to what Ian Carroll has to do with really anything pertaining to Brian Harpole, other than the fact that very early on, he was used actually by the other side, the YouTubers. Remember Paramount Tactical, you had Valhalla, and they were like, are these military guys trying to warn you, I told you about this at the time, against featuring Mitch on my show. I was going to have this show with Mitch. They got to work getting a bunch of people to tell me if I did this, this was going to be a big, big, big mistake. I would never recover from this. My career was going to be over. I hear that so much, man. I have heard that a lot over the last 10 plus years. They had a lot of things to say, first and foremost, that Mitch was never at Fort Huachuca, that he was a complete fraud. He could not even get onto the base because he never even served in the military. That's what they were saying initially. He never even served in the military. He had never been there. You recall this, right? Both of those things were
Yeah,
a
he
bunch
was
of people to tell me if I did this, this was going to be a
informative.
big, big, big mistake. I would never recover from this. My career was going to be over. I hear that so much, man. I have heard that a lot over the last 10 plus years. They had a lot of things to say, first and foremost, that Mitch was never at Fort Huachuca, that he was a complete fraud. He could not even get onto the base because he never even served in the military. That's what they were saying initially.
I have to keep telling y'all to get the lights up. I'm going to shut it down. Double tap the face of your screen. Get the lights up. 3 dots at the top right corner. If you don't like the tea, go ahead and leave. We are not going to miss you. Trust that. But double tap the face of the phone. Get those 3 dots at the top right corner. Support my platform. Cash App, Super Chat, Super Sticker. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle.
Never been there. You recall this, right? Both of those things were eventually proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yes, he did serve. And yes, in fact, as I instantly said back to Ian, he definitively was at Fort Huachuca. I have he could not even get onto the base because he never even served in the military. That's what they were saying initially. He never even served in the military. He had never been there. You recall this, right? Both of those things were eventually proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yes, he did serve. And yes, in fact, as I instantly said back to Ian, he definitively was at Fort Huachuca. I have he couldn't have produced more evidence. I've looked at the metadata. He recorded videos while he was there because it was sort of a trip down memory lane from him from when he was serving. He also had submitted to me his hotel receipts. I was very confident that they were spinning BS, and I wasn't quite sure why. And then they began the attacks on his past. Well, if she speaks to him, we got all this dirt on what he did to ex-girlfriends and 20 years ago and kids and baby mamas, and suddenly it got very Jerry Springer. I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I don't care if this man has 27 baby mamas. Even if you knew someone who was literally addicted to crack cocaine, right?
Hi, Mary here. We're giving away our entire jewelry collection. I know.
If they say, hey, this morning I saw so-and-so at CVS, okay, maybe they saw, they can ascribe. They can actually say, yeah, I saw this person at CVS. This is not a character assessment. It's where you were, if you were exactly where you said you were. Now, Ian, after obviously not being able to convince me that what they were saying or telling him was true, gracefully just bowed out of the entire situation, bowed out of the entire debacle, but of course did what they asked, delivered their warnings, the military bro warnings. They said they were in communication with lieutenant colonels, really tried to come in with, we're the professionals, this is stolen valor. Anyway, more on that later, because it's actually the second person, the second character that I find to be even more interesting to the story. So, there were actually people online who did publicly and very clearly accuse Brian Harpole of murdering Charlie Kirk. Okay, it wasn't implied. They weren't like, hey, maybe it was this guy killed Charlie Kirk directly. Forget a meeting at Fort Huachuca. It was, this is our guy, Brian Harpole. He pulled the trigger or pulled something. And yet mysteriously, I've been sort of watching and paying attention, and those people are not being sued for defamation. People that were making videos claiming that he did that, right? That's a bit weird. That's a bit weird. Wouldn't you at first sue the person that's just so clear-cut saying that you murdered someone? And in multiple videos, Baron Coleman actually noted this discrepancy, if you will, on his podcast. Take a listen.
Owens is the most high-profile spreader of baseless Charlie Kirk conspiracy theories, but she is not the only one. I did not yet turn the page when I thought he has to be talking about Blake Bednarz here, because Blake Bednarz basically accuses, by name, Brian Harpole every single day of murdering Charlie Kirk. Like, frame by frame. He has a whole video called Judas Harpole. Like, for crying out loud, if you're going to sue anybody... Candace had somebody on, and she was like, yeah, that's a close call. I'm not really sure what to make of that. We're going to sue her. And Blake Bednarz out here going, yeah, Brian Harpole, he did it. He absolutely did it. You can't tell me he didn't do it. Here's video of him doing it. Here's where he squeezed his hand. He's the one that did it. All up and down the X, all over the X spaces, all over YouTube. And they're like, and then I thought, well, maybe they don't know about it because, Brian doesn't have a huge following. It's sizable, but it's not huge. So maybe he didn't know about No, he does. He does. It's right there. It's literally on the screen right there. And it says his name is Brian Harpole. And then it has, action shots. The detonator trigger is under his shirt, below his wrist. It's like an actual arrow pointing the remote controller's in his front right pocket. This is what caused, he's not opining. He's not giving an opinion. He's telling you this is how the man died. That's what he's telling you.
And yet, no, this Blake Bednarz character is not listed in this lawsuit. There's no action against him. Now, Barron is not exaggerating, by the way. The person he's referring to, full name, Douglas Blake Bednarz, and he certainly did not mince words when he began positing theories about Brian Harpole after Brian's disastrous interview with Sean Ryan. Here are just a random selection of his tweets, Blake Bednarz tweets. He wrote, 1, this is who squeezed the trigger to initiate the detonation under Charlie's shirt. Brian Judas Harpole was wearing the controls under his clothes. I am 1,000,000,000% certain. Oh, that might be defamation. Next one. There was never a gun. It was a weapon called a shape charge. Here is who actually detonated the charge under Charlie's t-shirt. His name is Brian Harpole from Dallas, Texas. Okay, third time. Blake Bednarz writes, a gun was never fired and a bullet did not hit his neck. The pendant-shaped charge was detonated by Brian Harpole. This is why the necklace was such a central focus. Right after the incident, Erica and Frank had to establish its existence. That is not the necklace that Charlie Kirk was wearing. Here's another one. What did Brian Harpole have hidden on his person? Two things. One, the item in his front right pants pocket is what caused the audio interference, and the item under his shirt below his left armpit is what he squeezed discreetly at the moment that CK was hit. Holy smokes, this is it. Truly, you guys, I could go on and on and on. It was just an everyday beat. Brian Harpole murdered Charlie Kirk, and here's how he did it. From behind his back, holding something, pulling a trigger. Everyone saw this in the Twitterverse. I certainly was aware of this. Here's actually even a clip of Blake making those accusations.
Do you see this right here? I want you to pay attention to every time with Brian. This is what he does. Anytime he goes and messes with the weapon or the controller or the detonator, the trigger, he is pulling his shirt down because he does not want all the wires to be seen.
So I'm just demonstrating to you, like, if you're lawyers for Brian Harpole, this would be a slam dunk, I would say, right? I'd at the very least send this guy a cease and desist. I'm not one for suing, but I probably would send this guy a cease and desist. So you have to imagine my surprise when I got contacted by Blake Bednarz himself, the man, right there. And I learned that Blake Bednarz had been served by Dillon Law Group, but not with a lawsuit, but with a simple preservation order, because they think he might have something that might help to prosecute me in a defamation suit.
Oh, wow.
What? This is... Guys, we are living in upside down land, okay? This is beyond the realm of sanity. Okay, beyond the realm of sanity here. They know who he is. They're listing him in a lawsuit. They know what he has said, or putting him, demonstrating what he has said, and blaming me.
They wanted to be black
and they're just
against
right
white.
there. And then nope. We're suing Candace. Hey, Blake, could you help us? We feel like she talked about this Fort Huachuca meeting, and we're trying to get her. So what actually is happening here? And who even is Douglas Bednarz? So I'll tell you my communications with him. I was introduced to him via someone that I trust very early on in our investigation when we were in the gathering footage phase. We said to everybody, if you've got any footage, please send it to us, tips@CandaceOwens.com. And a girlfriend of mine contacted me and said, hey, there's this guy who is purporting to have never before seen footage from the UVU event. And can I set him up to talk to you? I said, of course. He said that he somehow had a contact that was there at UVU who had everything. So we connected. First thing that was weird was that he wanted to be on FaceTime. He really wanted to be on FaceTime. I thought, okay, that's odd, but okay. We discussed some possible theories. Could this have been an exploding mic? I don't know. I did not discuss Brian Harpole, that's for sure. But then as I kept asking him, like, hey, could you send me that really long footage that you've got? He just kind of never did that. He sent me a clip here, a clip there, a link to somebody else's footage. He just sort of kept kicking the can down the road. And eventually I just felt like something was off. You know, the intuition came on and I said, something's not right here. My spidey senses went up in December, right around the time that we began discussing Fort Huachuca, when he suddenly shifted gears and began sending me stuff about Brian Harpole and making radical demands that I show the footage, that I show and present what he believes happened about Brian Harpole. Basically trying to say that I was a fraud. You got to talk about Brian Harpole. You could find this. It was insane. And also, where's your back footage? Maybe challenging to see if I actually had it. I don't know. But I never took the bait. I always trust my guys. Something's not right here. So I'm just not going to reply to you beginning in mid-December. Just didn't respond at all. And I am so grateful that I did not, because it may very well be that they were attempting to set a trap of some description. I'll tell you why I'm getting there with Turning Point USA, and you let me know if you agree. Because, well, someone's going to explicitly say it. I'm going to show you evidence of that, actually. That's definitively what one of the YouTubers said, our military boys, who were effectively threatening me to not ask Mitch anything. Don't interview Mitch. Don't speak to Mitch. He's got baby mamas. He's got issues. We're going to blow up your spots. We're going to show everybody what kind of a man he is. Okay, I'm not trying to marry this dude. Just trying to figure out if he was at Fort Huachuca. Let's read some of those messages now to provide you with context. These messages were intended to be delivered to me, right? So this is the YouTube military boys insisting that I speak with them so they could explain to me, because this is their territory. Well, we know military stuff. That this is a case of stolen valor. Mitch wasn't even in the military. He's a fraud. I spoke to an ex-wife who said he never even has ever been to Fort Huachuca in his whole life. That's where we were starting with this. Here's one of those messages I want to read. And so the person saying, dude, he didn't see Erica and Brian Harpole. He's just a con artist. My source at Turning Point USA literally said they have all the documents and proof, both Brian and Erica weren't there. And they're purposefully giving Candace rope to hang herself with this while they build a massive defamation lawsuit. Huh? What? That doesn't make... I'm in communication with Turning Point USA during this time. I sat down with Erica this exact week. Why wouldn't you... Does that make any sense? Why would you... This doesn't make sense to me. I'm thinking this can't be right. Here's another message. No, she thinks because he went to a military base, that means that his story about seeing Erica and Harpole is somehow credible. Also, it's looking like he spent time locked up and got his special forces tab revoked for crimes against a child. This is according to blank. Anyway, I did my due diligence, and we can do it the hard way. I did my due diligence, by giving her a chance. We can do it the hard way and tie her to a con artist with a horrible history of abuse against women and children and raising $130,000 for him. Like, they were basically threatening me before I spoke to Mitch. They were saying, you go through with this and we're going to tie you to this con artist. First, he wasn't in the military. Then they said, okay, he was in the military, but that doesn't matter that he was in the military. He wasn't at Fort Huachuca. Okay, maybe he was at Fort Huachuca, but just because he was at Fort Huachuca doesn't mean he saw Brian and Erica. Okay, we've been open to that possibility that he misremembered who he saw, but this felt weird to me. It was a weird reaction. It felt like they were threatening me and saying they were going to, as always, ruin my career if I didn't do it their way. They could protect me otherwise. We could protect you, but you need to listen to us and not speak to Mitch anymore. Okay. And they've got a source at Turning Point USA who's saying they're planning it. They're intentionally not answering my questions because they want to give me rope to hang myself while I'm talking to them. Okay. So they're strategically not responding.
Railroad.
According to this person, right? According to this military YouTube bro. But I gotta say, that's a far cry from what Brian Harpole is now claiming in his lawsuit. In his lawsuit filing, remember, he says the reason they didn't respond to my not one, not two, but 3 separate messages. Remember, here they are. Here are my messages. Hey, Brian, this is Candace. People telling me that you're planning siege regarding a lawsuit. I want to see if you wanted to have an off-record discussion with me about anything, or if you'd like to simply clarify something that you think I got wrong. Hey, Brian, just again reaching out. In case you want to clarify your whereabouts in the morning of September 9th, I'm only interested in the truth. So I'd be happy to debunk Mitch if he perhaps is misremembering the faces he saw. Hey, Brian, reaching out again to see if you'd be willing to speak about the morning of the 9th. I'm obviously not trying to do anything other than debunk Mitch so that I can pivot and refocus the investigation, but I oddly can't get you to confirm or deny if you were there. He says, Brian, in his filing, he's going to say that his reason that he didn't respond to these messages was because he didn't want to grant me an exclusive. He didn't want me to make money off of clicks by telling me yes or no. You guys buying that? And I also was wondering, like, who is the source for these military bro YouTubers? Who is the Turning Point USA source telling them that they're intentionally not responding and they want to plot a lawsuit? Well, you guys remember. The answer arrived somewhat accidentally. You'll recall when YouTuber Paramount Tactical, one of the bros, accidentally read Andrew Colvet's text messages live on air. And he said, just a little too quickly. He read the message, and then Andrew said, please don't share publicly, but he had read that out loud. And it was an alibi regarding Fort Huachuca, asserting that the story was insane and that Erica was at home with her children. It was that accidental slip that caused the internet to explode. Because why would Andrew and Erica need to be coordinating a PR message secretly with a relatively unknown YouTuber when they were both in communication with me at that time? Erica and I had just sat down on December 15th. This felt oddly backhanded to me. Also, during our sit down, Erica told me that she was no longer using Andrew as PR because he kept going rogue. Well, here we had proof that he wasn't going rogue because it was a photo of her sending him a picture alibi of her covering her phone with her kids on the wrong date. Here it is. And dinner. So I'm going, what's going on? Why is he the secret Turning Point USA source coordinating? Why isn't Erica just texting me saying, hey, we saw your show. Just wanted to let you know, she wasn't there. So this arrived as a double whammy, right? Everyone was acting really weird about Fort Huachuca. They still are. So I set about finding out by way of messaging both Andrew Colvet and Justin Strife about Fort Huachuca on December 27th after we realized that Andrew Colvet was the one working on this messaging. And here is what I wrote to Justin Strife and Andrew Colvet in a group text. I wrote, putting you both on a chat here, since there seems to be a gap between what Andrew communicates publicly and what the truth is. Very simple request. Mitch Snow is very certain he saw Brian Harpole departing a meeting at Fort Huachuca around 7:30 a.m. on September 9th. I went out to Brian Harpole to debunk that and have not received a response. If you would like to submit something to me, a video of his metadata, text messages, etc., I would be happy to publicly debunk that. Not as crucial in my opinion, because he never said that she was a part of the meeting, but he also believes that he saw Erica departing a hotel on the base on September 8th, accompanied by a special forces looking guy. This would have been around 6:45 p.m. If Andrew would like to debunk that formally, please do. I'm happy to update everyone so he and Erica do not need to back channel through obscure YouTubers. There is also now residual confusion because Andrew messaged Gary, that's Paramount Tactical, stating that Erica was with Charlie on the 9th at the office all day. But Erica herself told Jesse Waters that Charlie was at the office all day and never said that she was with him. She said that they had dinner that night together, which I am aware of. Lost my place here. Dinner that night together, which I am aware of because it was with Father Klein. Gary has confirmed to me that Andrew's messages are related to Erica's schedule on the 9th and not the 8th. I honestly was not as interested in his sighting of Erica. But this is now blowing up due to Andrew getting caught communicating with these YouTubers and making matters more confusing. That's exactly how I felt. I felt like this is getting weird now. Like, why? This is he wasn't making any accusations against Erica. He just saw her. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons she could be on the base. Her mother works with the military. He could just have been visiting a friend. Or she could have been visiting her mother. For all I know, when her mother was sick, she could have been on the military base, right? You have access to that. You work in intel. None of this was strange until they made it very strange by their reaction to it. The threats, the trying to get me under duress, we'll ruin you if you go out with this. We're looking at his baby mamas. We're pulling up Mitch's entire life. I said something's not right here. I still, however, in a noble pursuit, attempted to get an answer from someone, and I messaged Dan Flood. This is all the way, we're in January now. That's Brian's business partner, longtime colleague. On January 4th, I messaged him. And this is what I wrote him. I said, this was not included in the filing. I said, hey, Dan, Candace Owens here, long time no talk. I know you still have contact with Brian Harpole, and that tensions might be a bit weird, between you guys and Turning Point USA. I have reached out to him a few times, but I wanted to see if you could maybe help facilitate a conversation between he and I. My goal is pretty straightforward. I have an eyewitness who is certain he saw him at Fort Huachuca on the morning of the 9th, and I just want to get a statement from him on that. Thank you. No reply. No reply. There's this caricature of Candace Owens out there that she never does any due diligence. She just puts out vibes. She doesn't try to actually get to the truth. This situation wasn't that interested until it became very interesting on the basis of everyone's reactions, everyone being weird about delivering a basic yes or no. And what would be the reason for that? What would be the reason that everyone got all weird? That suddenly Andrew Colvette's working with YouTubers and trying to get out an alibi, not through me, but he's trying to respond to me through these YouTubers. Are we to assume that he was the one directing the threats, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out. We sure as hell will find out in this lawsuit. I would say there's only two possible reasons for how everybody reacted. The first possible reason is that they really were, just as was expressed from the military bros, before I even hosted Mitch, plotting to trap me in a defamation lawsuit. And everyone immediately got on board trying to facilitate that by not answering and giving weird answers. That's one option. The second option is that they really were actually at Fort Huachuca. We haven't seen any clarity or any evidence yet to the contrary, despite his filing, which to me reads like a PR campaign. I agree with the assessment that Baron Coleman gave in his show, that if I am a federal judge, a lawsuit like that, which reads like you are trying to get it on the cover of a magazine, would make me a bit upset. I would say you're playing with the courts here. You spent the first 3 pages calling her an anti-Semite. What does this have to do with your claims? What does this have to do with your claims? Anyway, I wanted to show you that because I think there is something weird about the Blake Bednar's piece. It does not make sense to me. I think there is some digging that needs to be done. Everyone all at once started feeling really weird about this guy and how angry he was that no one would perpetuate his claims about Brian Harpole pulling a trigger to murder Charlie Kirk. And I think there's something there. I'll find out, obviously. I'm going to keep digging. We'll keep you updated, and we'll be back after a brief break. All right, you guys, most of what you hear in the wellness industry is just noise, quick fixes, empty promises, and miracle supplements. But I'm not really about that. I believe in products that are actually backed by research. Your liver is at the center of it all. Your energy levels, digestion, metabolism, and that's why I take Dose for your liver. Dose is a highly absorbable liquid supplement taken in a daily 2-ounce shot that tastes like fresh orange juice.
I was running my bubble bag.
It's a plant-forward formula that's clinically backed a deranged psycho / Owens. All right, you guys, we now return to, I don't even know what season we're in regarding Jeremy Boring, his nonstop pursuit of me, Tucker Carlson, former CEO of the Daily Wire. You will recall he got forced out of the company, generally speaking, because he's a deranged psycho. That's speaking generally. Most people who have ever worked with him would have that same conclusion. Never going to stop trying to make it in Hollywood. Certainly no executive by any stretch of an imagination. Anyway, Jeremy Boring, I had indicated to you guys, was the #1 person behind reading that as disparaging, grounds to sue. I mean, really strange stuff that if you did this as someone's ex-boyfriend, you would end up in prison. You would get arrested. Like, there's no question about it. He would just want someone to leave you alone and be done. He has an obsessive personality that did not just follow me. Obviously, it also followed Brett Cooper. And because I know his pattern, because I know which people he works with, so he never gets his hands dirty, which people he works with to get messages out. Like when I was at the Daily Wire, he used Alyssa Cordova, who would send things to Ian Miles Chong, who's generally speaking very gross, to go after his enemies. Because I know how he works, I just know when I'm in a Jeremy Boring storm. I just know when something has a touch of a Daily Wire in it, and I just felt it last week leading up to Brian Harpole's filing by their lawyer, right? This is the lawyer that Jeremy Boring and Ben and the Daily Wire worked with to pursue me for 2 years in court, just with the explicit goal of bankrupting me. And when a lot of this personal information was coming out about my family being I told you two of the cars accurately published online, LLCs that were found that you would only be able to find if you, I don't know, paid that LLC, right? Which Daily Wire paid me for years, personal information that I had shared with them. I just knew that this was coming from Daily Wire. They'll never admit it. They'll never admit it. They always pretend it's not them, but I think now the public is seeing how they behave, generally speaking. So imagine my surprise, not at all, when Jeremy took to his show yesterday to essentially platform Laura Loomer's attacks against my husband. Remember, she's been all over the place. My husband hit a guy, she named the guy, pulled up insurance paperwork, I told you, then combined it with another incident and said that we paid off someone to hide the fact that George was, brandishing weapons in a car accident, like I don't know, it was a gangster or something, like the Oxford boys come a long way, that we paid someone to hide this because George was not a citizen when this happened. That has been her overarching theme. There's been a lot of other themes too, but let's just stick to this one and hear the way in which Jeremy tries to confirm her story. Listen to his words.
I've read almost every day for a year and change that I left the Daily Wire after bankrupting the company. That's not true. Every single year that I led the Daily Wire, we grew revenue. Every year, year over year, for 10 straight years. My last full quarter as CEO was at that time the biggest quarter in the history of the company. My last full year as CEO was at that time the biggest year in the history of the company, just like the year before it had been, and the year before that, and the year before that. But the lie persists. In recent weeks, public records and documents have surfaced alleging that Candace's husband, George Farmer, was arrested in Nashville in August 2023 for DUI and leaving the scene of an accident. When Candace insists that this has nothing to do with her husband, that it's some completely different George Farmer in Nashville, Tennessee, well, that denial strikes me as pretty audacious. I was first made aware of the arrest and charges, leaving the scene of an accident after wrecking his truck at 3 times the legal limit while carrying a loaded firearm, shortly after it happened, back when Candace still worked for me at the Daily Wire. People who had access to the court documents approached me with them quite early, before the situation was resolved. By the time Candace started to engage in more and more evil behavior, the arrest was pretty well known in conservative circles. I was personally approached more than once by people asking me if I would speak out about the charges. In every instance, I refused. Not because I thought Candace's conduct was defensible, far from it, but because I believed then, and still believe, that family should generally be off limits. But of course, Candace doesn't believe family is off limits, just ask Charlie Kirk's widow. And so people now have decided to play by Candace's rules. But here too, the lack of journalism online is very much a part of the story. While the charges are now public knowledge, making Candace's denials look increasingly strained, there's almost no reporting on what actually happened to the case. There's still no reporting on what happened to the charges themselves. Did Candace and George pay to make them go away? Did the police make an error or violate George's rights in some way? Were the charges brought against him found to be untrue? I mean, the police arresting you doesn't mean you're guilty after all. Responsible journalists would be pursuing these questions if there were any responsible journalists left to pursue them.
You guys, if I could just explain to you for a second, I saw red last night. I saw red, like I was in a state of, like, let me calm myself down when I saw this. If you just know who Jeremy Boring is, the audacity of the lie that he is telling. So just to break this down, okay? Just to break down what he is asserting. He's asserting that this happened while I was working at the Daily Wire, and someone came to him and wanted a comment or a statement, but they never came to me. They never came to George, and he never told us. Okay, that's what he starts with. Absolutely untrue and a lie and completely made up. There was never an incident that happened while I was at the Daily Wire. I was never contacted. The media about me, like enemy number one. You think they just sat on that? Like, Jeremy, do you want to comment on this? We're not going to reach out to Candace, but would you like to comment on this? He's making it up. Foremost, I just want to say kudos to me for telling you guys that these were the psychos behind the push. Okay, it was beyond obvious. It had all the markings, like I said, of Daily Wire. So what he is doing is that first part is more relevant. He's angry that I told the truth about his spending habit that put the Daily Wire in the financial hole. It's just a fact. He also thinks that you're an idiot, right? He always talks about my rhetoric, my rhetorical tricks, but actually he's playing a rhetoric game here when he says revenue grew every year while I was there. all that means is we sold more stuff, okay? Revenue growing means nothing. If you spend $100,000 to take home $50,000, you're in the red. You didn't have a good year. Revenue means how much money the company is taking in, but how much it spends matters much more. What is the profit? And Jeremy Boring went for broke after the success, not of what he did, but of what is a woman, of what Matt Walsh did. We had our documentaries. We had a tremendous year. And when money was peak, he decided, this is my time to try to make it in Hollywood again. I failed out of Hollywood. I want to pursue this high school dream. So yeah, if they took in more money than ever before, year after year after year, it doesn't mean anything, and they were selling more stuff year after year after year. And that is what happened. Pendragon, Jeremy's high school dream, drove the company into the ground financially. With a project, I want to be clear that not even Disney Studios would have invested tens of millions of dollars in. That's a tremendous financial risk. He thought it was going to be a roaring success. It was an abject financial failure. So he's mad at me for exposing the fact that he failed as a CEO. And so now he's decided, I'm going to boost Laura Loomer's claims in the same way they did last time. He always acts like he's an authority. No one will question me because I was the CEO of a Daily Wire. And I'm telling you, this went down when Candace was working for me. And I just didn't say anything. That is a lie. Right? That is a lie. And how is he doing? By speaking then he speaks very carefully in the attempt to confirm her reporting. It sounds audacious to me, but he doesn't actually confirm her reporting. And he asks other reporters to instead go out and to confirm her reporting. So let's clarify. When he says, I was working for the Daily Wire when this incident happened, he means that the date of the incident report that Laura Loomer is sharing happened during my tenure at the Daily Wire, okay? Literally, again, I cannot stress, never ever was there a DUI incident where the executives were contacted about me during their time there. So no, he had no idea and never spoke to me about this or anything having to do with George outside of George helping them to raise money. He knows exactly who George is because George was traveling with the co-CEO while Jeremy was gone. It'd be amazing if they contacted him because you guys will recall Jeremy stepped down in order to go pursue Pendragon. He had to temporarily put a hold on being the CEO because he went to Hungary to shoot Pendragon. So nobody would have been contacting Jeremy Boring at all. My husband was trying to help them raise money. They went to London, him and the co-CEO, or the CEO at that time, the interim full CEO, Caleb Robinson. George introduced them to all of his circle of investor friends, his father's circle of investor friends. So when you see Laura suddenly knowing a lot about my father-in-law's investments, I'm a little suspicious that it's probably coming from them.
Introducing the brand new Silver Star Survival Package. This survival supply.
So what is he referring to actually is that after I was fired and they began to stalk me and my husband, and I am saying literally and seriously stalking me and my husband, they themselves hired PR people, outside PR people. My lawyers believe that they had hired private eyes as well to find any and all relevant dirt on me and my husband. This is how they play. This is the way that they think. If we can get a little blackmail, we can get people to do what we want, and that will be that. This is the reason that they sent the intern on the plane to follow me to Texas, right? They're always looking to catch you in a moment. They peppered her with a question that they were supposed to record that's meant to embarrass me on stage, and they were going to pass it around to make it look like it went viral organically, but they're passing it out to all their little minions. They wanted to destroy me by any means possible, okay? It is the Daily Wire and Jeremy Boring and their affiliates that stumbled upon an incident report with George Farmer in the late summer of 2024 when we were contacted. We were the ones who were told through our PR team that they were trying to get the New York Post to publish it. The Daily Wire had found a report and they were trying to push the New York Post to publish it. I want to be clear, Charlie was alive and well during this time and actually was one of the people that I was speaking to about how insane and deranged their attacks had become. After looking into that report that he's referring to, the New York Post declined to publish. They then tried to go to lower rung publications. I believe the Daily Beast might have been one of them. I'll have to fact check that. And they too declined to publish it because they couldn't confirm it. So they were getting a little desperate. We got phone calls during both of these attempts. We were also, this is very relevant, we were locked in a court battle at this time with them as they were trying to sue us into bankruptcy, literally. So if you think that they were fighting us in court, trying to bankrupt us before we could even begin our new podcast, and yet simultaneously he was being a good guy, and protecting us because family's supposed to stay off limits, you are out of your mind. You do not know who that man is. He is deranged. So what did they do? Who did they turn to this year when they went to renew their attacks on my family? Someone who they knew would have no morals and would create and perpetuate story after story after story. And that person is, of course, Laura Loomer, citing and naming a person. Remember Tracy Robinson? This is the hit and run victim, claiming that we paid to cover up 3 drunken arrest incidents. This is what she is publishing. This is what he is attempting to platform. And I want to tell you why this made me see red last night, because the goal of this is so sinister, okay? They have done a lot to try to destroy me, to try to destroy this platform, to try to destroy this podcast. What they are doing is they are hoping that what Laura Loomer is saying is true. They are daring reporters to uncover a scandal, right? A scandal where George had to cover up a bunch of DUI incidents with cash, me and him had to do this in order for him to get his citizenship. She is saying and implying that we lied to DHS. So what is the ultimate goal of what Jeremy is saying? Because reporters should look into this. Where did this go? Reporters should try to find out what happened here. The ultimate goal is he wants George's citizenship to be revoked. That is what he is trying to achieve. He wants George's citizenship to be revoked. He wants someone to do the legwork to figure out if there could plausibly be a scenario where we paid somebody off and lied to the Department of Homeland Security. That is where the Daily Wire is at. This is how desperate they are. They have looked into every layer of my life from birth to childhood. They looked into my family, and they can't uncover anything scandalous enough to hurt me. So they are hoping, and I want to be clear, wrongly, of course, that there is now a Hail Mary chance that George and I broke federal law by hiding and willfully lying to the Department of Homeland Security about a DUI conviction. It is utterly untrue. We would have never taken that risk with children, and they will come up dry. So reporters, feel free to look into that. We absolutely would have never lied. Laura is tagging people. Oh, we're calling the DHS. We're going to do this. Feel free to do that. But I want you to truly marinate. Forget Laura Loomer. This is a person who was formerly the CEO of Daily Wire. I want you to truly marinate on how sadistic that is. That he is hoping that he can break up my family. A real reporter should look at that. Why? Because he sunk his company and his career trying to ruin me. That's what they're calling for. That explicitly. We are hopeful this is true. And Laura Loomer is tagging DHS. She is tagging Mark Mullins, the Secretary of Homeland Security, to tell them to look into George for violating federal laws, okay? So for me, it is the audacity of him using Charlie Kirk, my friend, not his, as a human shield, claiming that he's doing that for Erica. That he's doing something that's actually unusual. Yeah, no, we don't go after family members, but I have to do this for Erica because Candace is going after family members. That's stupid, obviously, because Erica is a public figure and a celebrity. She is not a at-home grieving widow with her kids.
So not.
Stop pretending
I
like
just
she
wanna
is.
go home.
And also stop pretending like the last 3 years of my life has not been about you and your demented stalker pursuits to ruin me and to ruin my family. Shane Cashman said it best on X when he wrote this. He wrote, Jeremy Boring is Ted Bundy doing a Mr. Rogers impression. The entire team, my team, we all worked for Daily Wire. We laughed, like this is the most accurate description. Anybody who has been around Jeremy Boring, that is the most accurate description. You can see it in his demeanor. Well, I'm only doing this because of that. Reporters, is journalism still happening? Spot on. He is Ted Bundy doing a Mr. Rogers impression. So, if you need any more proof of that, please note what he attempted to do to Brett Cooper. What was she, 21, 22 at the time, for the crime of her wanting to get married? It is exactly like being hunted by Ted Bundy, who pretends to be Mr. Rogers. On the surface, we're glad to see Brett go. We wish her well. Behind the scenes, I will bankrupt her. I will destroy her. I will sue her over wearing a blue shirt. I will go to her wedding and then proposition her maid of honor to take over her show because I want her to hurt. And I want to be clear, that's wrong to both sides of that equation. Okay, 2 girls got hurt in the process of that. 2 young girls got hurt in the process of that because he was deranged and focused and obsessed. That is the true Jeremy Boring. Now, you want to talk about how obsessed he is? This is a true statistic. Since launching his new podcast, Jeremy Boring has done 19 shows that nobody has watched. You should know that 17 of them have been about me and Tucker Carlson. 17 of them have been about me and Tucker Carlson. This is a former employer who just stalks, right? He is stalking and masquerading it as a show. Everything is about me and Tucker Carlson. Now, for his last point, pretending that it could have been about morality, right? It really could have been about morality that he decided to take a swipe at my husband who tried to help him rescue his company. They are constantly going on and on, by the way, just in a broader sense about morality, right? We're better than you. The Daily Wire, him and Ben, we're better than you, as they privately seek to destroy people and to tear apart families. He thinks, and I mean whether you're saying don't get married, whether you're going after somebody's husband, this is how they play the game. And he is saying that it is a moral position that reporters should follow what could potentially be a DHS scandal, right? Well, I think those reporters, if they've got some free time, if there are any, like he said, any responsible journalists left that wish to pursue these kinds of stories, they should probably at first take a look into the many scandals that the Daily Wire has been burying, some that are occurring right now, right? I'll ask the question, did the police make an error in arresting their longtime employee and camera operator, Zachary Lewis, who was arrested regarding one of the more disturbing child pornography cases I have ever read? Last May, he was arrested. It's actually too disturbing to read in detail, but suffice it to say that it involves this camera operator distributing, he's been accused, I should say, because it's still going through the courts, he's been accused of distributing pornography of prepubescent kids in the process of soliciting other minors. And again, I'm going to say allegedly because he has not been convicted yet, but the case is making its way through the courts. And perhaps more crucially, you should know that this now former employee, Zachary Lewis, happens to have worked in the Daily Wire kids department, where they filmed kids shows with kids. Now, if there are any responsible journalists left, they should probably reach out to Jeremy Boring, who was at the helm of the Daily Wire kids department, Bentke, while this was all going on, and asked, did he know anything about Zach? Were there any complaints about Zach? Over the span of the years that he was working there, were there any complaints, any signs? Were the parents of the children that Zach Lewis was presumably filming for Bentke Kids notified about this pending case, about the offenses that were, the charges that were brought against him? I feel like that's a lot more relevant. Zach was arrested, as I said, in May of last year. I am told that he was not immediately dismissed from the Daily Wire, allegedly. Is that true? There are currently 6 felony counts pending before the judge. I dropped the details of the case against him on my X feed. I am, of course, again, not going to say them on the show because it's very, very dark. And I think, if there are any real reporters left, oddly, by the way, just to add to that, I have been informed that they did not build a stage to gloriously fire Zach Lewis and to publicly hang him before the employees like they did with me. My offense was that I said Christ is king. Is it deemed a worse internal offense to say Christ is king and to tweet out genocide is always wrong? That's worse than what Zach Lewis did? Like I said, were the parents informed? What about the other talent at the Daily Wire? Were they aware of this? Because I'm hearing nobody knew about this. I got a public hanging, but Zach Lewis just gets to go? That's interesting. Again, that's just if there are any responsible journalists left, because that seems to be what he's concerned with. Or if, guys, right there, I think that you guys should furnish the answer to those questions. Again, I also want to be clear that we are only presenting this out of a sense of moral duty. The Daily Wire has established the rules of continually trying to destroy the businesses of people who are simply doing better than them in the free markets. They just keep attacking Tucker Carlson as an example. They constantly are seeking to humiliate others using their personal and business relationships. I don't know, maybe people should look into Jeremy. Maybe re-examine the relationship between Jeremy and his much older sugar mama wife, who he met and she's been bankrolling him since his failures in Los Angeles. The whole conservative origin story of a Daily Wire should probably be called into question, actually. He doesn't keep Ann Boring, his wife, away from the cameras to protect her. I don't think that's true. And I'm not so sure about that story about him being a struggling actor in Hollywood who just became best friends with Armie Hammer as he regularly brags, via Bible study. I don't take Army Hammer as a Bible studying kind of guy. What kind of Bible were these two studying together? Because Army's sexual interests don't register to me as biblical. They may have been consensual. I don't know if they were biblical. Neither do Jeremy's, by the way. Right? Writing a movie script like Lady Ballers and inserting Brett Cooper into a role to lick your face, which she declined to do, that feels a bit gratuitous to me for a conservative company. If I'm being honest, that's just an opinion, and I'm asserting it out of moral duty. But again, just so you know, it's to protect Charlie Kirk. That's why I'm doing it, really, to protect him. You established the rules, and I'm just following them. I'm just your regular old Mrs. Rogers, who has spent the last week having my employees doxxed, their faces doxxed, their infant kids put online, my home address published, the LLCs, which oddly were given to you guys, that you were aware of, published onto the internet. That's it. Anyway, you guys should know that Jeremy responded because we publicly invited him to come onto the show, discuss George and what he did and when you knew, discuss your morality and why it should matter to reporters. He is naturally declining to be the change that he wishes to see in this world. Here's what he said on X. I am not going to read the whole thing because it's another Jeremy boring diatribe. We can skim through it. This video is prime Candace. Every manipulative rhetorical technique in the books. Okay, she makes roughly 236 claims. Yada, yada, yada. Brandolini's law. The whole process is meant to make the accused look crazy for even trying. She uses rhetorical sleight of the hand. Next, can we get to you responding? He said, I might respond that I've never made any such claim, but Candace has already suggested that I'm working with Laura Loomer to launder accusations against her. I might respond that I haven't spoken privately to Laura Loomer in years. Oh, do you think I'm dumb, Jeremy? I worked for you. I know how it works. Like I said, you use your minions. You never get your hands dirty. You didn't get your hands dirty when you went for Steven Crowder either, okay? You use your minions to get stuff out into the press that you want out. And if the press declines to do it, you turn to the people who you have absolutely no respect for, that you think are just deranged but dumb, useful idiots that will take your money. And those people might not even know that you're behind it. Like I said, you always keep your hands clean. Do you think anybody's buying that? I haven't spoken to Laura Loomer privately in years. That's not what we're asking you, Jeremy. You wouldn't have to. Matt Sarleson could speak to her. Your lawyer could speak to her. They seem to maybe know each other, maybe be in the same orbit at the very least. He says, Candace has already moved on to say that I'm coordinating with Ben Shapiro to launder ideas to Laura Loomer. Next, let's get to the next page. He says, this is, by the way, like working for him, people who are reading this of Daily Wire are just like, man, remember we just used to try to get out of there, but Jeremy just loves to hear himself speak. Right now, everybody's on X like, dang, man, I really want to get out of here. This man just loves to hear himself speak. I'll tell you, the Jeremy Boring podcast will never be a success, but it will always have one unique listener, which will be Jeremy Boring. There's no doubt he listens to himself when he gets ready in the morning. He loves himself. He thinks he is so wise and so talented. Here's his next tweet. He says, the next part of the tweet that I wanted to point out, he says, you might think that there is one claim I simply have to address, that a Daily Wire employee was arrested for sex crimes involving a minor. Yeah, I think you should respond to that. But while that accusation is terrible, it has nothing to do with me. Okay, so explain it to us like we're 7. If George was brandishing a weapon and lied to the Department of Homeland Security, what would that have to do with you, given he was never an employee of a Daily Wire, never worked under you, and you didn't expose him to children and have him facing a charge like this? I'm not tracking that. Incredible. This is who he is. This is just who he is at all times. He makes sense of the things that are absolutely senseless. Next, he then says, other than that, I have nothing to say to Candace. She invited me to come on her show to talk about George, but I have nothing to say about George at all. She invited me to talk about this person she says committed this terrible crime, but an hour of have you stopped beating your wife, guilt by association slander, isn't my idea of a good time. He doesn't want to come, he doesn't want to talk about it. He just wants to say stuff on the internet. He says at the end that also, my audience is rightly concerned for my safety if I go to Candace's studio. Jeremy, you know all of us. We all left the Daily Wire. I don't know why you would feel unsafe, but I did offer, and I still will extend the offer, to join virtually if he's scared for his safety. Maybe because George is brandishing weapons. I get it. George is brandishing weapons at police officers. I can understand why you're scared for your safety. Everybody knows he's a gangster Oxford boy. So anyway, we will be right back after a brief break. All right, you guys, you know those days when you just feel off? As a mom, I've had plenty of them between juggling work, family, and everything else, eating perfectly balanced meals every day, just as not.
Yeah, I'm sleepy.
Neff was writing her speech, allegedly, I'm told by people with direct knowledge who have since been fired. That in part could be because, like I told you, Blake Neff was writing her speech, allegedly. That in part could be because, like I told you, Blake Neff was writing her speech, allegedly. I'm told by people with direct knowledge who have since been fired from the Daily. I've been fired from Turning Point USA. That might be why. I also think she's reading from a prompter. I think in general, every time she's spoken, it hasn't actually been her words. There might be a reason for that. I'm not sure. I don't think Blake Neff would be my choice ghostwriter in general. Every single day he's watching the show. He's pulling stuff live virtually from the show. Every single day I'm asking him, Blake, I want to keep you focused on one thing. You got donors who say that the Charlie voice saying that he appoints Erica as CEO, which you guys allege took place at the Aspen event. Donors that were in attendance say that that did not happen, Blake. What say you? Can you please drop the video? That's it. A second number two comment. I was going to say second number one comment. Genius. Dimwit writes, Blake Lively is a true influencer. She influenced me to never watch any movie she's in ever. Yeah, I totally agree. I think a lot of us feel that way. I don't even like when they post her. I just saw too much of how she treats people. It's very hard to come back from that. Look, I hope they'll be rich for the rest of their lives. I think quietly retiring and doing some charity and raising their children totally works for me. I don't wish any bad on them, but it was hard to read through what they did to Justin Baldoni out of sport, her and her husband, just out of sheer sport. I definitely don't ever want to see Ryan Reynolds ever again, though. I almost, the bullying that he put him through was just unbelievable. Just so pompous and so arrogant. More comments from today's episode. Sorry, I was not prepared to scroll down here. Sarah writes first, who else remembers when Candace revealed that Andrew Colvett was the person who betrayed Charlie in her dream? I sure do. That is actually really interesting, especially in the retrospect. It definitely is very, very interesting about Andrew. So much more seems to be coming out. GB writes, Candace, I need complicit in this nonsense merch. we do have some new merch coming for you guys. It's going to be some great merch, actually. Attack Wretch writes, best quote for the Feds thought by far, quote, take it with a grain of crack cocaine. Whatever we're talking about, Laura. Just take whatever she says with a grain of crack cocaine, and you'll be fine. Alaska Dog Lady writes, I got nothing. This is all insane, but expected. Another day in the spiritual war, and demon's gonna demon. Catholic gang, my spiritual sister in Christ. We're in it. We are in the thick of it, but I have to say, with the way that they're thrashing, the desperation, the anger, the nonstop obsession, it feels like we're winning. It's hard, trust me, every day. I cannot pretend that it is not hard for me when they go after my employees who have nothing to do with anything, or when they go after my family members who have nothing to do with anything, like tagging my family members in things. I'm like, I wish, just give me all of the attacks. But I also just know that everyone, I think, has been made stronger, and that we all feel the same way, that these attacks seem to be happening because we as a society are getting closer to truth. And so we know that we have to keep pushing and wake up and fight another day. Wake up and fight another day. And of course, because I know that you guys have my back big time. That makes it a huge difference, trust me. If I had to then also fight you guys, I don't know, I probably would be in a bit of a collapse, but I know that this is the majority opinion, and we are fighting a minority that just happens to have a lot of power, and it seems like a bottomless pit of anger and devastation that they wish to impart upon the world. Nate Simon writes, CK show would be the biggest influence.
Okay, y'all, I think I want to enter on a spiritual note, a gospel note. Just a little bit, I'm sleepy. It's in my ear right now, and I'm finna take it off my ear, let y'all hear it. Finna get in this bubble bath over here. And I'ma call it a night. I'm gonna call it a night. Y'all ready for a little gospel? Just a little. Just a little. Is that all right? Are y'all still with me? Are y'all still with Auntie Fish? I don't know why I can't get the background that I want, Lord. It's just, I guess it's sleepy too. Yeah, are y'all still with me? I can just go on to sleep. Are we okay? Can y'all hear me?
It always didn't do right. Our left told me, Tim, go right. But I'm sitting right here in the midst of my tears, claiming you to be the last. When I
Oh,
always
it wasn't long
didn't do
enough, really.
right. Our left
Hold on.
told me, Tim, go right. But I'm sitting right here in the midst of my tears.
Yeah, that wasn't long enough. Hold on. Let me see what I got. Y'all want a funny? Y'all want a funny song on the way out? Let's do a funny. Can we do a funny? A child, I do mean it's funny. Let's go.
I love me a cougar.
Yeah.
Talking about that thing
With some age on it.
Teaspoon of vinegar.
I don't need no vinegar.
Make me wanna put my name on it.
Ooh.
Put a crease in my.
Ha! Y'all think y'all ready for this? Huh?
Talking about that thing
With some age on it.
Teaspoon of vinegar will get it right. Make me wanna put my name on it. She put a crease in my jeans. She all that I need. Ham hock in her
green.
I love my cougar, Miss Irene. Cook me a nice meal every Sunday. Hell, I'm go mow the lawn for her. Clean that garage, cause her husband passed. Moment of silence from Mr. Charles. Now I'm finna go work on her. She thick as cornbread, got some good old yams. I get a high blood pressure medicine. She just can't stay away from hay. I love my cougar. Talking about that thing
with some age on it.
Cornbread, got some good old yams. I get a high blood pressure medicine for. She just can't stay away from hay. I love my cougar. I'm talking about that thing with some age on it. Make me wanna put my name on it. She put a crease in my jeans. She all that I love me.
Y'all, good night. Good night, y'all. Vinegar. I don't need no vinegar. Shit, it's all right now.
Wanna put my name on it. She put a crease in my jeans. She all that I need. Ham hock in her green.
Woo, I got another one. Wait a minute. I got my guy. Hold on. Let me go get my guy. Let me go get my guy. Let me see if I can find him. Oh man, what's this? Is this him? No, that ain't him. thing.
Why is a man getting away with something that a woman can't?
Now let me go and go to sleep.
Let me tell you, if you want to see
That ain't him. I can't think of what his name
women
is.
get away with stuff, go to divorce.
Okay,
Why
y'all,
is a man getting
good
away
night.
with something that a woman can't? Well,
And watch, as soon as I get off, he gonna come out with his little skinny jeans. He can show jam. What's that song? Oh man. Y'all, good night. I can't remember. I'll save it next time.